I gotta update that fucking intro clip. Israel Adesanya is pulling down the old logo. What is the matter with me? I haven't even thought about it for months. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. We are off of a break week. We survived. We made it. We're here. This was one of the most brutal break weeks I think we've had in a long time. Who in their right mind said, you know what? First week without football, let's not have MMA. I mean, what are all of us junkies supposed to do, right? Football season is over. We're all a little bit sad. You've got hockey that's on the winter break, and Olympics are going on, and that's kind of cool. But at the same time, it's like none of the normal sports are happening. And Uncle Dana is like, let's pull MMA from under the rug. I mean, thank God Spectation Sports had an event this past week. Otherwise, it would have gone absolutely insane. But we made it. We survived. We're back, and we're headed to Houston, baby. We got fights to talk about. What is up, everybody? My man from Half the Battle, Dan, saying smash the like button for Brother Clint and Brother Wiz. And I'm going to welcome everybody in as always, but my man Dan gave the surprise away. So let's go ahead and bring our guest in, you guys. One of my favorite people in the MMA space. Me and Wiz have been trying to get on camera for a long time, and our schedules just haven't matched up. It hasn't quite worked out. He always does his show with one of our favorites, Brother Liam, usually on Fridays, some late night entertainment for most people right before the fights kick off on Saturday. If you don't know Wiz, you should. He is awesome, and he's got some serious knowledge to lay down, so let's bring him on in. Brother Wiz, how you doing today, man? Good to see you.
Clint, we're finally doing this. The first time in a long time. I'm just excited to be on. We're finally able to do this. We've been talking about it for about 2 months now, just planning it out, and then here we are. Excited for another week of fights. We have 6 weeks in a row without interruption. I can't wait to get it started. So thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's good to have you on, man. It's good to talk to you again. I think this is our second show that we've done together. It's been that long trying to get it back together, so it's good to have you back on screen here with me. 6 weeks of MMA is going to be an absolutely beautiful thing. How is your year so far going as far as betting in 2026?
It's been pretty up and down. To be honest with you, I only tracked the first event of the year because the last two events I really had not much going on at all. And the first event I really laid an egg, I'll be honest. So looking to rebound and start tracking throughout the rest of the year. And I'm profitable 4 years in a row, so I'm not too worried about one bad event to start off. You were saying it's been a bad week for a break. There's no NFL. NBA is on an all-star weekend break. But don't forget, there still is tennis, and I have maybe a little something to give you guys at the end of the show for tomorrow. So we still have tennis.
Little tease. All right, that's fair. And you know what? Tennis is one of those sports I don't think about. So I'm always glad to rely on people like yourself to remind me that tennis.
The tennis warriors are here.
You know what? I got to bring everybody in here, my man. Of course, Dan shouted us out right at the top, but the OG himself, Dixon Sider, my guy Dream in the chat. Colby, what is up? We got George Ray Pro Dim is in the house. Jib Head, what is up, my friend Dylan? We've got Louis Mack Jr., 18 Chuck Norris Jr., Vice City, C. Kurz. Oh, my man, Barry Lang, the number one investor of Die Hard stock. Miro Picks, what is up? Chris, how you doing? Vic, Ross, so many people. D, my man D, Joseph in the house, and of course, shout out Non-Stop Philly with the dono. Thank you for kicking our week off right, my friend. He says, might ask a question via donating each week here at this point. Question of the week. Thoughts on prediction markets versus traditional sports books? And you know what, my friend, I am more than happy to start off the show with a rando tangent. So no problems there for me if you want to keep this up. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't have a full grasp on prediction markets just yet. From what I understand, the line opens and then essentially never closes. It's almost like, I guess, like horse betting, where like when the money comes in, the numbers move. So you could bet a 30-1 horse, but if he goes off as the favorite, you're getting even money, even though you put your cash in at 30-1. So like as the line continues to move up and down, when it closes, or I guess when the result happens, that's where you decide what you won or earned. And I'm not entirely certain, so I'm probably not the right person to answer this question. It's very interesting. It's very intriguing, but it's kind of, it feels like we went from the Wild West of like illegitimate gambling, people using their bookie from down the corner and overseas and Bovada, like where everything got regulated and everything got safe real quick in a hurry when the right people started making money. And now all of a sudden prediction markets are like throwing everything right back into chaos, where it's like you can do some crazy stuff. And now this is where, okay, again, you guys know I do my best to steer clear of politics for the most part on this show, unless something is so big I feel compelled I've got to say about it. So that, please, this is not a political statement. But there was like somebody did a bet on whether or not we were going to strike Iran like the night before it happened, because you can prediction market bet literally anything. And someone made like 800K or some shit because they knew we were going to strike Iran. And then we actually attacked Iran. And whoever this phantom person was operating out of a shell company pocketed $1 million. Prediction markets are insane. They scare me a little. Wiz, do you have any thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, just like you, I have no grasp of prediction markets and how the rules and regulations when it comes to them work. I did hear about the, like, say you bet on something and it's a 21% outcome and it closes at a 50%, you get paid out at -110 or plus 100, which is very odd. I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
So I stay far, far away. I'm in California, so it's already hard enough to, I don't bet. So
Of course.
I stay
California
far
makes it
away.
tough. California makes it very, very tough. And the solution, no, I specifically am not covering politics now. Thank you. I mean, I could absolutely break out the tinfoil cap and start a show for you if you guys really wanted me to, but my wife would kill me. So no, I I am not doing that. Oh my Lord. So Wiz,
Happy
back
wife,
to the
happy
fights.
life. Can't do it.
That is, there is nothing, truer words have never been spoken, my friend. To all of you singles out there, make sure you marry a woman who you can make happy one way or the other, because that when people tell you happy wife, happy life, they are not joking. But man, I've kind of had the same thing as far as my betting results go to start the year. UFC 324, I think so many of us were like champing at the bit to really get after it. A lot of people took some big swings that week. I had a small losing week that week. I know some other people got absolutely destroyed. The next two events have both been like minuscule for me. One of them barely positive, one of them barely negative. So I'm just a little bit down on the year so far, but I feel like the reads are there better this year. Last year I really struggled. I feel like the reads are better so far, and hopefully you and I can keep the good vibes rolling this week and find some soft spots here for the people.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to talk about this week. There's a lot of good spots, and I think this card is sneaky heavy related to finishes. I think we're going to see a lot of finishes this card. So let's try to keep account of them as we predict this card.
I agree with you. And let's get after it, you guys. So first and foremost, this is Wiz MMA. Make sure you guys are following him, especially over on Twitter. He's a good guy, very knowledgeable, does some real life actual training, works with some of these camps and stuff. So every once in a while we get a little sprinkle of hidden knowledge. So and all around just a good guy. So make sure you're giving him a follow. His info is in the description below. Get subscribed if you're not already. And let's dig into this bad boy. First fight of the night. We've got Crispy Carli Judice takes on Juliana Killer Miller opening up in style with women's MMA, because why wouldn't we do that coming off of a break? It's just it's tradition at this point. You guys know I have talked up and down and sideways about Crispy. I love this girl. The second we caught wind of her, I was like, yes, we're going to be Crispy fans here on this show. She is just 26 years old, and for women's MMA, especially at this level, with not having many professional fights under her belt or anything like that, it's kind of insane how quickly she's moving. And she's got 5 wins by knockout. She's got a 100% knockout rate as a women's MMA fighter. That is not an easy thing to do. That's pretty rare. And she's 1-2 so far in the UFC. So she, you know what? That's wrong. She is 2-1. See, I get that backwards. First try, Wiz. Every single week, I say the first record backwards, and I caught myself. 2-1, guys. Back-to-back finishes here. She kind of got rid of meme fighter, Dubin in the first round, and then she got Nicole Cagliari in her last fight, which was a bit more of a battle. Took her to round 3, but then got her out of there with a liver shot. Honestly, man, the loss to Gabriela Fernandez that she had in her UFC debut was one of those ones that I feel almost elevated her stock. I'm like, you're dropping her into the deep end immediately against a tough Brazilian who can grapple, who can strike, who is durable, who's got power. Like that was a trial by fire for Crispy, and losing a split decision. Like, I mean, she could be 3-0 in the UFC right now. She could have won that intense, tough fought fight in her first UFC fight. I'm not knocking her whatsoever losing that fight, especially at 25 years old. She is so incredibly young. This girl has such a high ceiling. I have a hard time imagining really where she can go. And then she loves getting busted up, man. She's one of these fighters that really switches on when she tastes her own blood. She doesn't have any issue taking damage, coming forward, and dealing it back when she needs to. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot over Juliana Miller, who is 29 years old. She was the winner of the Ultimate Fighter, and she's just 4-3, which is a little sad to say, man. 4-3 being a tough winner. The Ultimate Fighter winners used to make a splash. They used to be a big deal. They used to come in here and stomp people, made a run for the title almost immediately. Now we got tough fighter winners who are going to get cut after their first contract expires, right? Like we made a bag fading her against Veronica Hardy when she was like a plus 350 underdog. That was a good night back in 2023. But then she gets memed by Luana Santos. That one, you guys, I will still continue to preach to everybody that cares to listen. Juliana Miller, there was something wrong that night, Wiz. She was sick as a dog. You could see her eyes were sunk. She had a white face. I mean, like, I don't know how the commission let her step into the cage that night, because you could tell just by looking at her that something was horribly wrong. And Luana Santos doesn't knock out anybody. So for her to like standing TKO this girl, it was like, what was that? I was really happy to see Juliana Miller get back on track in her last fight. We actually cashed a ticket. I was on her against Ivana Petrovic coming back as an underdog in that spot. So I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship here with Killer Miller from a betting perspective, and I think she's a little bit underrated. Coming in and falling flat on her face as a big favorite, and then getting sparked the way she did. I think people just have a real poor opinion of her. The fact is, she's got decent BJJ. She's a nasty finisher. If she can get you on the ground, she can tie you into a pretzel. She's got nice elbows, but she is a little bit long and lanky. She's one of these women that kind of, I don't know, can't control her frame is a little bit hard to say. I think maybe that's a little harsh, but you know what I mean? Like, they're a little slow. They're a little gangly. It's not tight. It's not crisp, pun not intended. I think she has to grapple in this fight, man. I think she's got to get it to the mat. It's a levels fight on the feet. Crispy is going to piece her up on the feet. But I also think that if Juliana Miller can get this fight to the ground, I think she's got more of an advantage there than people are giving her credit for. So this line feels a little bit wide to me. Like, yes, it's a foregone conclusion that Crispy is going to win this fight, and she's a minus 800 favorite, and I get that. But if it hits the mat, man, at 26 years old, if she's not ready for the jiu-jitsu, this could be an upset. I don't think I'm taking the shot. I'm not calling the shot. Like, I think Crispy's going to win this fight running away, you guys. I really do. But I'm just saying, watch closely and be careful bridge jumping with parlays, because if she lets down as a minus 800 because she can't handle a chick on her back with a body triangle, that's the kind of fight we're looking at right now. Do you have any stronger convictions or anything like that on this one, Wiz?
I think this one's very straightforward. You look at Juliana Miller, and we kind of know the archetype of fighter that she is. She's going to go out and try to wrestle and grapple you, and if that doesn't work out, then the fight's, you know, unless she's facing someone that also is a terrible striker, with all due respect, I mean, it's just very slow, very gangly, as you mentioned, and very predictable when it comes to Juliana Miller in the striking. She doesn't really have too much more than a 1-2. And even with the 1-2, you can see it coming from a mile away. I just think that Carli Judice is going to find the knockout here in round 2 or round 3. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes in round 1, if I'm being honest. But Juliana Miller's defense is not there, and Carli Judice is not just a power puncher, but she throws volume. And when you have power and volume in WMMA going up against someone who doesn't really have the best striking and is very predictable with the takedowns, I think it's a knockout waiting to happen. So I'm going to say 2-3 KO for Judice.
Yeah, the way Carli just methodically attacks people in the clinch, attacking the body, throwing in combos, like, I'm with you. Even if it's like a mercy stoppage or something like that, I do agree with you. She's probably gonna find the finish. I don't see a total up yet. Wiz, do you see a number for, like, is there a 1.5 on this one? I am not seeing totals yet this week.
I'm pretty sure I found a total. Give me one moment. I'll pull it up right now. I think it's
I always
2.5,
think
and it was shaded to the under.
it's weak, man.
It
We got a week
is,
off and they can't give us totals
yeah,
sometimes. Messing with me.
yeah, under
Okay.
2.5 minus 180. And sorry if I'm cutting off you guys. It's raining pretty heavy here. I know I'm in California, but yeah, very heavy rain today. So please let me know if my connection is unstable at any point.
You know, it's going in and out. It'll sharpen up and you get nice and crisp and clean for a little bit, and then it kind of wavers out. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, California is getting nuked right now with weather. So my grandpa lives out there, so I heard all about it, man. You guys are getting some
It's
getting crushed.
crazy.
Yeah, we're close enough over here in Arizona. I'm hoping to get a little bit of it. We got a ton of cloud coverage, but so far nothing coming down. So fingers crossed we get a little bit too. Man, I'm thinking the under 2.5 fight doesn't go the distance. Maybe better ways to play this. I'm sure Carli Judice inside the distance. They're probably going to slap you with like an even money ticket on that one or something, but I would play the under, you guys, just for that tiny little edge that maybe if it gets to the mat, I think Juliana Miller's jiu-jitsu could cause some problems. So might as well play violence rather than picking a side, in my opinion, but we'll see what those numbers look like when they solidify a little bit later on in the week. Let's move on. Next fight up, we have got Yadier de Valle taking on Jordan Leavitt. The Monkey King returns, my friend. This is such a weird fight to me because Yadier, for those of you guys who don't recognize the name, frankly, if you don't operate online or on Twitter at all, like, you know exactly who we're talking about here. This is the guy who got the round 1 submission win over Isaac Dulgarian his last time out. He was an underdog to Isaac Dulgarian, and everybody, myself included, had chunks of that Dulgarian money line, man. I had him parlayed up and everything. I was ready to go. I know a few crazy psychopaths that sprinkled on Yadier as an underdog, but then something weird happened. That line crashed. Like, it came down insane, like the day of the fight. And people started kind of freaking out about what was going on. This was the first big spotlight we've had in a long time as far as like fight fixing and stuff like that in the UFC goes. Somebody somewhere got some kind of info and everybody jumped on board. I saw that number crashing, you guys, and I hedged as hard as I possibly could. I threw serious money on Yadier de Valle at even money because I was like, get me out of this parlay. My first leg had already hit, and it was right before the fight went off, and I posted on every social media platform I've got. I was trying to warn people. I'm like, something is up. You don't want to be holding the bag here on Isaac Dulgarian. Sure enough, that's the one where he gives up these random takedowns, gives up his back, and then gets choked out in the first round, something we've never seen from Isaac Delgarian. Every single time that dude fights, he's the hardest guy to take down. He's the hardest guy to control. He's got cardio that doesn't quit. And it's not like he had an injury or something that led to this. You visibly can watch him. If you watch that fight back, you can see him make like an effort and then make a half-hearted effort and then accept the position. And that's not something he's ever done in his entire MMA career. So blatant, obvious fight fixing. But it leaves us in this weird spot with Yadier where we're going, okay, we've got this 10-0 kid. And what is he? What does that mean for him, right? Because that fight was not supposed to go down that way. Now, I want to read some of the notes I took before that fight. I copied and pasted some of my old notes from before that fight. And I said, he's very physical. He's got fast and accurate hands, and he just drags people around the cage from the clinch position. He's got a tight squeeze on him, and I like this kid. We might have something here. So I made a note specifically that I think there's some serious upside here on Yadier de Valle. So I just want to kind of remind everybody, don't get low on this guy because the fight with Delgarian was fixed. Also, do not overestimate him in this spot because the fight with Isaac Delgarian was fixed. So he might be very, very good. But I'm not ready to dive in feet first at a crazy chalk price tag on this guy when we're giving him this betting line is essentially giving him credit for choking out Isaac Delgarian in the first round. And that wasn't real. That's not really what happened. Now he's facing Jordan Leavitt. All right. The Monkey King, who is incredibly underrated, I feel like. You know, this guy's a bit of a meme. He likes to go out there and twerk. People think he's gay, like whatever, right? Like, but people can't stand the guy for whatever reason. He's good. He's 12-3. He's 4-2 in his last 6. The problem with Leavitt is he's primarily a grappler. Like, while he's developing and he's improving with his striking, he's more athletic than he looks. He hits harder than he looks like he would, but he's a really good grappler, and that's kind of his path to victory. The guys who beat him are bigger, stronger grapplers. Chase Hooper, Patty Pimblett, Claudio Puelles. And that's kind of open and shut book for me, Wiz. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, so he's fallen short against guys who are bigger than him, who can transition quicker than him, and that's really it. But that's exactly who Yadier de Valle is. So I've got to say, I think Yadier de Valle wins this fight, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's another one that's able to submit Jordan Leavitt, but I hate the number because I feel like the number should probably be a little bit closer. It's weird coming off of the fight fix situation. I'm probably going to end up leaving it alone, but I want to see where that submission prop number comes out for Yadier, because that, if it's okay, might get a little bit of interest from me. This one's probably going to end up being a pass just because of the circumstances. What about you?
Yeah, you look at this fight, and obviously the last fight for Del Valle was the quote-unquote fixed fight for against Delgarian, and that was just a very weird look. Delgarian was carrying the action the whole entire round until the finish happened, and it almost was as if he wasn't fighting the choke. So I do think it's a fixed fight. And then on the other hand, Leavitt is someone that I've trained with countless times in the training room, and I think from his first stint in the UFC to now, he's made a lot of changes. He started training with the right people. So I think he's definitely improved on off of his first run. And the striking defense is getting a lot better. The offense is really what's lacking when it comes to the striking with Jordan Leavitt, and that's the problem here. Del Valle himself, I believe he has some credentials from Cuba in wrestling. So I think he can stay safe when it comes to the takedown attempts, and his jiu-jitsu isn't half bad, but if Leavitt gets on top, I think this is going to be trouble for Del Valle. Leavitt is one of the best in the room at all points, no matter who's there, when it comes to the jiu-jitsu game. So there's always a danger if Leavitt snatches a nice single leg and takes him down, because there's endless submission attempts that he can go for. He has one of the most creative arsenals when it comes to jiu-jitsu that I've seen. But I just think the physicality here from Del Valle is going to be a big problem for Leavitt. I think Del Valle is going to be the stronger of the two, and just the more aggressive overall on the feet. And I think he could potentially hurt Jordan Levitt here on the feet. I predict him to win inside the distance, but I'm rooting for my guy Jordan. It's tough to see him go up against I want to say a young prospect, but they're only a year apart in terms of age. So yeah, I just think Valle has this covered.
Yeah, man, it's tough sometimes. We see these guys with shorter records, or they're new to the UFC, and we automatically think young prospect, and then someone like Leavitt he's old and busted. He's old news. He's been around forever, right? Like, it's a 1-year age gap. It's crazy. But I just think the physicality is going to make the difference. I believe Yadier is 1 inch taller, and if you've seen the guy, holy shit. I mean, he looks like Yoel Romero. Like, he's solid muscle from head to toe. I just think he's going to be too strong. And I got to tell you, man, I've been on the grappling mats before with people like that. And when they have that strength advantage over you, we all want to make the jiu-jitsu argument that technique trumps all, man. But when you've got a guy who also has technique and they're stronger than you, you're helpless. There's not a thing you can do. So, yeah, I think it's Yadier. I'm a fan of the Monkey King, so it would be fun to see him get that kind of an upset or something, but I just don't really see it playing out. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but I hope he gets a soft landing for a bounce back fight. All right, guys. Next up, we've got Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani and Phil Rowe. That was tough. I had to take a deep breath there and center myself. That's a long name to try to rattle off there. Phil Rowe, we all know very well. At 35 years old, he's been around forever. He's 11-6. He is a guy who I have, oh my Lord, I've lost so much money on Phil Rowe. You guys, if you've ever been to the casino and you see that game at the tables, it's called Pai Gow. The gamblers at Pai Gow call it almost, because you get extra cards and somehow you almost get a straight. You almost get a flush. And so they call it almost instead of calling it the name of the game. That's Phil Rowe for me, man, because he is in every single fight. He is really going toe-to-toe with some of these guys, and he finds a way to lose. There's the guys who find a way to win. Phil Rowe is a guy who finds a way to lose. He started off his fight against Jake Matthews blazing right out the gates. Busted Jake's face up. His right hand couldn't miss. The boxing was crisp and clean. Same thing with Neil Magny. He starts hurting Neil Magny. I mean, he looked like he was going to win both of those fights, and it was really going to like elevate him to, oh man, like maybe we've got a dark horse late career contender. And then he falls apart. He completely falls apart. Neil Magny sucked him into the Magny-verse, and of course that goes the way it always goes for most people taking on Neil Magny. But against Jake Matthews, I'll never forget, because I'm screaming at the TV, Wiz. He gets on Jake Matthews' back in the 3rd round, and this guy's supposed to be a BJJ black belt, and he falls off the top. Jake had nothing to give. Jake had nothing left in the tank, and Phil Rowe just gave it to him. Like, he could have just shifted his hips back and stayed in that position, or even let him back up to the feet. He was doing fine. No matter what, it was easy, and he instead rolls off and plays on his back. He loves his jiu-jitsu, and he's a turtle, man. That's the biggest thing, the biggest issue with Phil Rowe is he can be taken down, and he does not get up off of his back. If he's striking, his boxing is clean, his height, his reach, his length. He knows how to use it all. He's incredibly fast for a guy with those attributes, very athletic and hits hard. But if you take him down, he's just helpless. He's coming off getting ground out by Seokhyung Ko, and it was just mauling. If people get this guy down more than 3 times, he's donezo. He is taking on Jean-Paul, who's 9-2, who's 27 years old, and is making his UFC debut after Dana White's Contender Series. Now, generally speaking, you guys know how I feel about Contender Series. It's a little bit weak. I like to try to fade these guys as they're overhyped coming into the UFC. I've put a pump the brakes on that just a little bit recently, because they have been matchmaking these guys better coming into the UFC. And we've dodged some bullets because of that, because some of these kids coming out are legit. So I think we pivoted at the right time on that one, but you're probably not overly familiar with Jean-Paul. So let me tell you just a little bit about him. He's extremely explosive. He's got huge power in his hands, very, very heavy. He's heavy on his feet. He keeps a high, tight guard. He's got a big back. He likes to wade into range and like rip body shots. He's got strong hips and a good sprawl. He also knows how to play with his footwork, so he gets you kind of chasing him around the cage. There have been a couple fights where he's fought bigger opponents, and he's used that to his advantage, where he's used kind of a power jab and been able to score and do damage, and then dodge out and stay away and make them kind of chase him around the cage where they couldn't quite catch him. The thing is, this guy used to fight at 155 pounds, and now he's moving up to 170. He's been there for his last couple of fights, but you can see even on the regionals, Wiz, he looks a little small to me. He's a little smaller than a lot of these guys. Now, coming off Contender Series, that didn't seem to matter with his power, because the way he iced Jack Congdon on Dana White's Contender Series was crazy. He hit a head kick behind the jab, and Jack just never saw it coming. It was one of those ones where it didn't put him out flat, you guys. He kind of stanky-legged around the cage for a minute, and then John Paul followed up with a right hand that put him 6 feet under. It was incredible. The thing is, Phil Rowe's tough as nails, man. He's been KO'd once his entire career, and it was his first professional MMA fight. He's not a guy that you knock out easily. He's a true 170 pounder, a guy who kind of kills himself getting down to 170 pounds. He's going to be massive in there, and he's got a ton of experience. I think we uncork the Dana White Contender Series fade here this week, man. I think we go back to it, Wiz. I think John Paul is very good, but I think he's small, and I think he's reliant on his power. And he also isn't much of a grappler. From what I have seen, he's more of a defensive grappler. He's hit a couple takedowns here and there, but it's not a guy that really goes in there firing off double legs and plowing people to the mat and trying to stay heavy on top of them. It's kind of a thing where he mixes up the pace of a fight to get opponents guessing, that kind of thing. I just think this number is too wide, man. John Paul is minus 205. Phil Rowe is a plus 170. And frankly, Wiz, for my money, that's when you want Phil Rowe, is when he's counted out, when he's a huge underdog. You don't want to lay chalk on this guy. You don't want to put a bunch behind him. But I kind of think Phil is super live in this fight, and his reach and his boxing is going to be enough. And if Jean Paul doesn't come in there with a wrestling singlet on, I struggle to see him outstriking Phil Rowe for 15 minutes, man. Give that, you know what? That's going to be the dog of the week. That's going to be the Link Memorial dog of the week. We're rocking Phil Rowe at plus 170, Wiz. Talk to me, man. Am I missing something on this kid? What do you make of this fight?
I will never, and I mean never, forgive Angelusa for that performance. I will never. He belongs in jail. All jokes aside, this is an intriguing matchup. Phil Rowe, I like his build for the division. I do not like his lack of wrestling defense in this matchup. I really don't. I'm not saying that John Paul is going to go out there and all of a sudden put on the singlet, because he hasn't really shown too much of the wrestling and the grappling in his career. But this guy is, I'd like to say, a judo guy. More than anything, he's a grappler first and a striker second, but he's a grappler that has fallen in love with his hands over his past couple of fights. And look, it's served him well. He's gotten some knockouts. In this fight, I really just think it would be very crazy to not go for takedowns off rip, especially after watching Phil Rowe's last fight against Serghei and even previous fights in his career where he's been taken down multiple times throughout each round. And against a dominant grappler, that's someone who could hold him down. He's not the type that gets back to his feet all that easy. In the striking, the reason why I don't think JPL should stay there for too long is because of this reach advantage and height advantage for Phil Rowe. Phil is going to have at least 4 inches of height. I think JPL might be a little bit shorter than 5'11", if I'm being honest. I've been around him in the training room also when I was working with Evan Elder, and I don't know if he's 5'11". I don't know if he's 5'10". Let's just put it that way. And when you're fighting someone taller, it just adds a little bit of reach advantage because you're poking upwards all of a sudden. So it's a lot harder going upwards. It increases that reach disadvantage for the fighter who is shorter. and it just creates all sorts of problems. And when you're already at an 8.5-inch reach disadvantage, I don't want anything to do with the striking whatsoever. So I think that JPL, if he's, well prepared for this fight, he's done tape and he'll go for takedowns against Phil Rowe because that's the path of least resistance. And I think he finds a submission shortly after, whether it's in round 1 or round 2. JPL is very aggressive, and I think he can land some ground and pound that will open Phil up, make him move around and give up bad positions. I think it's going to be a rear naked choke. I'm going to call it.
Wow. Okay. Going for the sub. Now, Phil has never been submitted. So that'd be impressive, man. If he comes in here and taps out Phil Rowe, that would be big time. I'd be very impressed if that were the case. So a little oppo here on this one. It's funny you're talking about him being 5'11" or 5'10". You guys, when I was in high school, my college football coach, it was funny. My mom came over to me and showed me like the little what is it? The notebook is the only word coming to mind for some reason. When they like list all the players on the team and stuff like that as you're coming into the game, they give you a pamphlet. They give you a little pamphlet with every. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she shows me the pamphlet, and I was listed at 6'2", 225 my senior year of high school. I was 6 foot. And I weighed 175 soaking wet. My coach put 50 pounds on me and gave me an extra 2 inches to make us look a little bit more intimidating to everybody looking at the notebook. So yeah, I think he's 5'10", and they're marking him at 5'11". We'll see. I can't wait till Friday and see how these guys size up, because I think he's a little on the short side. We'll see though. All right, guys. I'm excited. That's going to be a good fight. Can't wait. Ramiz Brahimaj takes on Punahele Soriano. And you guys, this is my first action of the card. I've got a bet locked in. I saw this one and I had to jump the second that I saw it. Let's talk about it though. I've gone to war with both these guys. If you've been listening to the show or watching the podcast for any stretch of the imagination, I've gone to war with Punahele Soriano. I've been a big believer in Ramiz Brahimaj as well. We've hit on Ramiz as a dog. We've hit on Puna as a dog. And ever since Puna has dropped down to 170 pounds, he's looked like a beast, man. 33 years old, training over at Extreme Couture. He's in the right place. It seems like he finally got himself together, and he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Miguel Baeza, Uros Medic, and Nikolai Veretennikov. He's done very well against all 3 of these guys. And frankly, the Nikolai Veretennikov fight is aging incredibly well after the performance that he just put on a week or 2 ago. So Punahele is a guy who's got some wrestling in his back pocket. That's something he's been working on, bringing kind of back to the forefront of his game recently. He hit 5 takedowns against Miguel Baeza, and he hit 4 takedowns on Nikolai Veretennikov. He's got big power. He rolls well in the pocket. He's a take one to give one type of striker. He's very tough. This is a guy that's hard to put away on the feet. So he's more than willing to bet that he will hit you harder than you can hit him. Seems like 170 for his frame, for his size, for his strength. That's where he can be a bully. And some of those technical things that he's just clearly not going to pick up or develop, he'll be able to cover that with kind of his physicality at this weight class. I think he's in the right place. Ramiz Brahimaj, 13-5, 33 years old. This guy was supposedly like a round 1 sub or bust type of fighter when he made it to the UFC. But he's been here for 5 years now. And all of a sudden it looks like he also is getting it together. He's on a 3-fight win streak, all 3 of those coming by way of finish. And more than, recently the Austin Vanderford fight, he showed he's not a round 1 or bust guy anymore. He took Austin Vanderford to round 2. And the big knock on Ramiz Brahimaj was you can take him down, and he also is a bit of a turtle. He'll play jiu-jitsu off of his back. Well, he called it my boy Bilal Muhammad, and he's been working with him really hard, and his get-up game showed massive improvements. Against Austin, he knew exactly what he needed to do to get back to his feet, to get back to where he could put his hands together. And that sounds weird because he's a world-class grappler, but he's been working really hard on his striking, and how he won that fight against Austin was not the submission that you guys see on the final result. It was with a head kick. This guy pieced him up on the feet and then landed a perfect head kick. Austin wanted nothing to do with what was going on standing, so he shot a bad takedown in the second round and got choked out. The biggest takeaway from that fight was Ramiz's elbows, man. When Austin was trying to drag him back down to the mat, he was doing the Travis Brown sideways elbows. Like, he was looking for damage at any opportunity he could, and he just kind of broke Austin Vanderford. It was a phenomenal performance. So I really feel like both these guys are in the right place at the right time, but I feel like Ramiz is starting to actually capture his ceiling. I think he's training with the right people. I think he's got the right team around him, and he actually is, improving, whereas Puna cut to the right weight class. I think Puna still is Puna. He's just in the right spot. And Ramiz, on the other hand, I think is really kind of capturing his potential. So at 135, you guys, I laid the hammer. I've got 4.05 units to win 3 on Ramiz Brahimaj. That's my guy. I'm going to ride with him here in this spot. Again, Wiz, I think it's a short number. I think it's a good number. We've seen Puna get submitted before. We've seen him wear out and get tired grappling before. Now, granted, that was at 185 pounds, so I will grant you that. But I think if Ramiz does what he did in his last fight, if he doesn't accept that bottom position, if he gets to work on the feet, I think he can win this fight via decision, or I think he can win this fight via sub, especially if Puna does slow down the later the fight goes. So it's maybe a little crazy. I'm calling my shot. I'm taking my guy. Maybe the bet sizing is a little bit off. That's always been my problem. I don't think Ramiz is round 1 or bust in this spot, man. I think he can win this fight, and I think he can win it later as well. So I like it. The number moved in my face. He's minus 130 right now. I got minus 135. Line moves have been wrong the last couple years in MMA, so I'm crossing my fingers that I'm on the right side of this one, man. What do you make of this fight?
Look, I will preface this. I am, I'd like to think I'm pretty good friends with Puna Soriano, so I might be a little biased. I'm gonna do my best to separate that bias. Just objectively looking at the past few fights for each guy, admittedly so, I have gotten Ramiz Brahimaj wrong because I have always tried to fade this guy, and it's only worked once when it was Themba Gorimbo, and that was the last time I was successful. So I've been trying to be, more. I'm realizing that this guy's actually putting in work. He's at the right camp now, and he's putting in work with the right guys, and he's improving. Puna Soriano at 185 was just not the same fighter, and I think 170 is where he should have been this whole time. Watching tape on Puna, I will be honest, like when he shoots in for some of his takedowns, he's very susceptible to getting head caught in a gilly. And that is something that Brahimaj is really freaking good at. And he's fast to snatch that guillotine up. So there is always a risk in this fight, especially when fresh. If Puna shoots for takedowns, that his neck gets snatched up if he's lazy with the technique and with the attempt itself. So I think he should stay away from the takedowns unless we're later on in the fight, both guys are tired and he finds some success. On the feet, I think both guys have a 50-50 chance to knock each other out. Both guys have shown some slight durability issues in the past, and both guys, or I would say Puna is the one that really has flashed the power more often than not. Puna's striking, I will say, is more limited to the winging overhands, sets it up with the jab. Brahimaj working with the likes of Bahamundes in this camp, I would like to think that his striking is improving by the day here. So I can't separate the two. I think it's a 50-50 fight, and I think the line is close for a reason. I'm rooting for my guy Puna. I do think that fight doesn't go to distance. I actually wanted to see what that price is at for fight doesn't go. I think that is likely the best position in this fight. But let me pull up the odds just to, before I take a look at it and it's minus 200 or minus 250, because that's just a little bit too steep for my liking. So fight doesn't go to distance here, or under 2.5 is at minus 150. Fight doesn't go to distance, minus 190. I think both of those are fine. I would rather go under 2.5 because I do think that there's a finish within 2 rounds in this fight. I'm rooting for Puna.
Okay.
I hope it's Puna that gets the finish here. Let's get a banger. I think this is a sleeper for fight of the night, potentially.
Okay. I love that. I love that call, man. And you know what? The only problem is I was kind of hoping, I'm waiting for the numbers to drop. We usually save this for Friday, but I'm going to switch hats here for a second. I actually think Ramiz by decision is the move. I think he's going to stuff takedowns.
Okay.
And I think he's going to jab his way to a win because you don't knock out Puna Haley Soriano. Nobody knocks out Puna. So I think he's going to have to focus on defense. Puna's going to focus on takedowns, and it's going to be a damage versus control time type of fight. And when we get to round 3, you know how as gamblers, when we've got an inside the distance bet, we are screaming at them to do something because they've got their man right where they want him. He's tired. He's on the ropes. Go, baby. Cash this ticket for me. But the fighter goes, you know what? I really feel like cashing my win bonus. So they just kind of ease off and they make sure they don't make any mistakes in round 3. That's how I envision this thing going, is that maybe Ramiz might be able to like go balls to the wall and get a late sub or something like that when Puna's too tired to get him down. But he opts for the conservative route and he like jabs and leg kicks and avoids damage and makes it to the card. So like my crazy call is Ramiz by decision this week. We'll see. More than likely, there's more than enough firepower on both sides of this fight. I think you're probably right that inside the distance is the more likely outcome, but I want to see a number, Wiz. I want to see a number. Let's see what that decision prop looks like later on in the week.
I will say this. So for those who don't know, I train and coach in Muay Thai. I've been doing it for a long time. I love the sport. I pinpoint like different things when I watch tape that stand out to me. And I think that Puna is going to be able to land his overhand. It's pretty sneaky, just due to the defense of Brahimaj here, because Brahimaj likes to throw from the sides. Like he almost doesn't have his guard up all that high. So I think the overhands will land. It's not saying every single one of them is going to land before everyone takes this very literally. I think he can sneak a few in there, and all it takes is one for Puna.
Yes, sir. I'm a big fan of Puna. He's liked a couple of my memes on Instagram, so I'm right there with you. I'm not a hater. I'm a supporter. Just going with my gut here on this one. Shout out Chalky Bets in the chat. He's asking, think Chito Vera can take David Martinez down. You probably haven't studied it yet. Love the show. Well, Chalky Bets, thank you very much for the donation, my friend. Thank you for the question. You were correct. I have not studied this fight, but I know Chito Vera very, very well. What I will tell you is, yes, Chito Vera can take down David Martinez. The real answer to your question, though, is he's not fucking gonna. Chito doesn't grapple. You guys, I made so much money at the beginning of Chito's career. He's one of these grapplers who fell in love with his hands. I made so much money on sub props. You could just blindly take sub. He would find a way to pretzel anybody. It was easy. And then one day he figured out he liked punching people in the mouth, and he never grappled ever again. If you make the mistake of thinking, oh, you know what? Let's change this up. Let's take it to the mat. He will absolutely accept your gift and he will render you unconscious with a triangle or something like that. But he doesn't actively hunt takedowns. That's the problem. I think Chito could have been an incredible fighter, and there's so many fights he's fought that he could have gotten his hand raised in if he would just use his grappling, but he refuses to. So thank you for the question, my friend. Yes, he can. No, he won't. That's the answer to your question. All right, guys, next up, we got Nora Cornoli, and she's taking on Joselyne Edwards. Really rough fight here, Wiz. This one's tough for me, man. Nora Cornol has kind of turned into a bit of a meme. She reminds me a lot of Amanda Lemos, where it's like she's not really winning minutes, and she's nasty on the feet, big power for a woman, 36 years old. Cardio concerns, but even like again, kind of just hints of Yoel Romero here, where she looks like she's tired, but then in round 3 she'll just hit you harder than you're able to hit her. So if you slow down, she'll kill you. Like, she looks like she's exhausted, but if you leave her an opening, she will take it. She is dangerous from bell to bell, but she's absolutely on the low end of the technique side of things. She's just vicious with what she does well. And her opponent, Joselyne Edwards, is somebody who I, for the life of me, can't get right. Every time I bet on her or against her, you go back 2-3 years, she was going to split decision every single fight she was in. I was always on the wrong side of those bounces, Wiz. I swear to you, I have never cashed a ticket on Joselyne Edwards until I think last year. I finally pulled my head out of my ass and I got one win. I think when she fought Tamaris Vidal, I got a win on her on that one. But I bet Chelsea Chandler. I was the moron who actually thought, you know what, I'll click at this super wide number. And Joselyne has somehow turned herself into a finisher. She's big. She's strong. She misses weight half the time. She doesn't care. She'll like get in your face. She's like female Leon Edwards, where she's got like an attitude at freaking everybody. And it's your problem if she missed weight, not hers, right? Like that's how she's willing to cheat in there. No issues, no problems. You just got to deal with her. And now she's vicious. Her grappling was her weakness before, and it's kind of become her strength. She's taking people down and mauling them now with ground and pound, and she hunts submissions. And it's really been kind of incredible to see the last couple of fights where she's really turned it around. Now, granted, she's got kind of a step down in competition going from like Eileen Perez, to Chelsea Chandler and Priscilla Cachoeira, women that don't really have any type of grappling game. But we find ourselves in a weird spot here in this fight because Nora also really doesn't have much of a grappling game. And I used to knock on Joselyne Edwards' cardio. I kind of feel like she's patched that up. So this is a tough fight for me where 2025 Clint that was just hemorrhaging money. I absolutely would have taken the shot on Nora Cornell here. You've got Joselyne Edwards as a minus 325 favorite, plus 260 to come back on Nora. And I would have jumped at that, Wiz. I absolutely would have taken that shot last year. I am not taking that shot this week. I think Joselyne Edwards will be able to use her grappling effectively, but I will say that you probably want to watch this one for live betting purposes, because if Joselyne gasses out before Nora does, you'll get a good number live, and you can find a window to jump in that way if you really want to get involved.
What a fight. First and foremost, this is a rematch. So you go ahead and you watch this first fight, which I had Joselyne Edwards on. And I think she won that fight. I was angry. I've been on a lot of the wrongs. It seems like everybody, when they're breaking down fights, have been on the wrong side of a split decision, But yeah, I'll be one of those. I was on the wrong side of a split. I think Joselyne Edwards won that first fight, and I think this
that was
time out,
Nora's
she's gonna
debut,
go.
I think, wasn't it?
It was in France, and we had too many bites of the baguette in that one. Let's put it that way. It was crazy. I don't know what they were smoking in there. Anyways, I think that Joselyne's not gonna let this fight get to the scorecards. I think she's gonna go out there, and this is the ultimate sub 2-3 spot for Joselyne Edwards. She's ever since she started training with Valentina, she's been showing up in much better physical shape. At the weigh-ins, we haven't really seen too many problems, and she's been, looking phenomenal. Number two, she's been going for more takedowns, and her grappling has actually been one of the more impressive things to her game. Number three, you look at the striking, she's throwing with more power. She's throwing with more pop. You see these girls get affected by each and every straight power shot, whether it's the two, whether it's the knee to the body, the teep kicks. She's throwing a lot. So you got to love it here with Joselyne Edwards. And Nora Cornell, I think she had a couple of, decent spots here, maybe gifted a decision, and she ran away with it. I think Joselyne's going to take her down repetitively, whether it's in round 2 or in round 3. As Cornoli starts to wear off, she finds a rear naked choke submission here. I think she's a more dominant grappler. Whether it's a ground and pound or submission, I think it's just Joselyne Edwards inside the distance. Usually when fighters get teed up for a rematch spot, it's more of an emphatic win than anything, especially when they feel like they got robbed. This is just talking straight mentality wise, and I've heard it for a ton of people in the gym. So I think she takes advantage.
I love it, man. I really do, because seriously, she won that fight. I mean, it was absolutely a home cooking type of decision if we've ever seen one. I remember just kind of my jaw hitting the floor when they read that decision, because it was like, no way did she win that fight. So I'm with you.
That
And
one's
I
very
feel
painful.
like, I think the UFC is kind of throwing Edwards a softball here, right? Like, I'll bet you she called for this. I'll bet you she's been asking to run this one back. And the UFC loves hype. You know, they love when they get a fighter who's streaking, and especially they love when fights are exciting. And let's face it, there aren't that many WMMA fighters who are just lighting up the scoreboard, finishing people, submitting people. She's kind of caught some heat lately. She's had people kind of taking notice lately. Her ground and pound is fun. She's tapping people out, and so she wants this one back. And man, if you look at her Instagram, she is taking this fight seriously, Wiz. Like, her abs are popping weeks out. She is ready to go for this one. I'm with you. I think she doesn't let the judges have a bite at the apple here. I think she absolutely finishes this fight inside the distance. Looking for a sub prop yet again, I think would be kind of a fun way to do it. And I think Nora's going to have to fight for her life. So if you get a decent under, if you want to just roll it that way, where, you know, maybe Nora is the one who gets the win, she's going to do it inside the distance. There's no way she wins another decision in this fight, not in Houston. So yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm with you. And we got a lot of people in the chat kind of
has yeah, it also has her listed at King's MMA. She's not at King's MMA. Definitely not.
Yeah, she's at Extreme, I think.
Yeah, she's been at Extreme
camp.
And she's also been training with Valentina. This camp predominantly Extreme from what I'm hearing.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Extreme Couture on her Instagram. I didn't hear about Valentina though. That's interesting. If she's training with the GOAT, there is something to be said for that. All right, guys. Next up, let's talk about Alden Coria and Luis Guruli. Wiz, I got a bone to pick, man. I was lied to. Okay, people told me that Luis Guruli was the next big thing. People told me that Luis Guruli was, you needed to get in while the getting was good when he made his UFC start, man. And it was one of those fights where I came here and I come on this podcast, and you guys know I do this ahead of almost everybody else, and that's by design. So I don't have anybody else's ideas floating around in my head. But on this one, I had heard several people talking about how hyped they were for this guy. And it's people that I respect. And so I'm kind of stroking my beard here because I'm going, I'm missing something. I was like, what am I missing? Because, like, he's fine, you know, but I didn't think he was the next big thing. My hair didn't get blown off watching his fights. And then he goes on Dana White's Contender Series and he gets a grapple heavy split decision. And it's like, okay. Like, so they sign him to the UFC, and who do they give him first? My favorite fade, Ode Osbourne. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm not overly impressed, but dude can wrestle. And my boys told me he's good. And I love fading Ode Osbourne against grapplers. The stars have aligned, and I clicked the button and I parlayed him up at minus 250. And he got smoked. I was like, what the fuck just happened? Man, Ode has this thing. We'll talk about him in a minute. But Ode has this thing about showing up every so often and just ruining everybody's night. It's kind of what he does. That's what he pulled that night against Luis Guruli. And I was so pissed off. I actually actively avoided him in his next fight, Wiz, because he got Jesus Aguilar. And you guys know how I feel about Jesus Aguilar. He is guillotine or bust, literally. This guy doesn't have a game. And Wiz, I've talked about it so many times. Jesus Aguilar is not a minute winner. He is not a minute winner. He's not a guy that is able to go out there and do what he needs to do. He has no power, right? He's got one knockout on his record, and that's over Shannon Ross, who was the chinniest human being to ever be signed by the UFC organization. So I'm like, okay, if Luis Guruli is ever going to win a fight, it's going to be this one, because Aguilar is going to look for guillotines. He's going to put himself on his back, and Guruli will be going forward. Guruli will be getting on top. So it's Guruli, and it's probably Guruli by decision. But you know what? I got burned against Ode Osbourne. I'm not doing it. I'm not touching it. And thank God I sat on the sidelines, Wiz. Thank God I sat on the sidelines, because he's 0-2 in the UFC. So I fully and firmly believe that Luis Guruli has been bum checked or fraud checked here in his first couple fights coming into the UFC. And I think I know the UFC is onto that as well, because Alden Coria is that dude. He's 27 years old, and this is going to be his second UFC fight. Wiz, when I broke this guy's fight down for his UFC debut, I was very impressed with him. I compared him to, and now before you guys attack me, he gives me Anderson Silva vibes, the way he moves, Wiz. the way he sees. You know what I mean? The way he sees the strikes coming, the way he moves his head, the way he moves his feet. I'm just like, there's some spider vibes going on with this kid. Now, I'm not saying he's Anderson Silva, you guys. I'm not saying he's going to be the next GOAT, nothing like that, but just I could get that. I love the way he strikes. I absolutely love the way he strikes. But he has no power. He's got no real power. And I talked about that leading up to his fight. He TKO'd Alessandro Costa. Like, that's impressive as hell. Now, it wasn't because of his power that did it, Wiz. It's because he doesn't fucking stop. He backed that dude up and he diced him the way prime Tony Ferguson used to just eat people up with knees and elbows. He had this man covered up and falling to the ground where the ref had to step in and save him. I was so blown away by Coria's debut. He's 1-0 in the UFC. I am so hyped on this kid. He's going to be 3 inches taller. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage, and I think he's going to absolutely murder Luis Garuli in this fight, man. Because if Luis Garuli isn't able to pin him down and keep him down for the full 15 minutes of this fight, this kid's going to piece him up. And damage versus control, they are cutting guys like Jailton Almeida right now, Wiz. Like, if you are boring by any stretch of the imagination, you're not getting your hand raised, and even if you do, you're out of here. So Luis Garuli better have some sense of urgency coming into this fight, because if he lays on this kid and goes 2-1, they're still cutting him after this one's over. So I think we're going to see a fight where Coria stuffs takedowns and then goes out there and, again, another crazy comparison. He's going to look like Peyton Talbot this week, man. He's going to stuff the takedowns. He's going to keep the range, and then he's going to eat Garuli up at that distance. I like Coria a lot this week.
Garuli is, I will just lead off with this. He is not to be trusted. Whether he's a favorite, whether he's an underdog, where you think he wins this matchup, or whether you think he loses, just do not trust him with your money, because losing to Jesus Aguilar is just very big red flag for me, because Jesus Aguilar, like, with all due respect, yes, he's made it to the UFC on what merit, and also the build. I don't see how he even was going to cause any sort of problems for Garuli in that matchup. I didn't think there was too much of a chance at all there, and I thought Garuli was going to be able to just neutralize off of the failed guillotine attempts and keep him on the ground and land control time. I don't know what was going on with Garuli in that one at all. So on a 2-fight losing streak here, you could think this is a good bounce back spot against someone who, yes, shined bright in his debut against someone in Costa who maybe not the best fighter, but he's still a good fighter. Like, he has some wins in the UFC that are respectable. In the striking, Coria is going to be the faster guy by far. And Garuli is not someone that covers up all that well, so I think Coria is going to be able to tee off on him. But I don't think that Garuli is out of the water when it comes to the striking here, because I think he can land on Coria, and Coria's been dropped against some pretty trouble too, so let's not forget. So I think, like, if you wanted to play the Garuli side, you probably want to play him by knockout, because I've seen Coria dropped a couple times. But I truly feel like this is Coria's fight to lose. I think he can go out there and he can knock out Garuli. He can win by decision, just on volume. A much faster guy, much more crisp striker, and I think 9 times out of 10, if we were to play this fight out in the striking realm, which is where I think the fight's going to take place, I think Coria wins this fight. So give me Coria, but I'm not really looking to parlay him or anything at all, just for the sole reason that for the way I handicap fights, I like to have more of a extent background when it comes to UFC fights and higher level professional fights, rather than one UFC fight and then the rest have been in Fury. No disrespect to Fury, but they are one of the smaller regional promotions out there. So yeah, both guys coming from Fury though, so that's not really saying much.
Yeah, and I completely understand.
I was going to say the only
No, go for it.
major prospect in recent history that's come out of Fury, let's not forget, UFC champ Joshua Van.
That's fair. He's carrying that torch in a big way, man. You know, and I used to have kind of the same attitude as you about some of these guys, especially these larger chalk type of price tags on these kids that are essentially brand new to the UFC, who are untested, who are not still relatively unknown. I've kind of started plugging my nose and going for it, man. I mean, Ty Miller against Adam Fugit to start the year, UFC 324. I feel like I missed an opportunity on that one because I was like, I think the old dog's gonna hang around and maybe it'll be like a late TKO. No, he flatlines him in the first. It's like we got to start buying on some of these kids, man. I mean, now not all of them, obviously, but the UFC is putting some of these guys in positions to win, and the sports books are lining them. They're making you pay the price, right? So you got to watch your spot because some of these guys are going to flop. You're going to be able to take some nice, juicy dog shots. But when you think someone is the truth, you're going to have to take the number while you can get it because we're seeing minus 500s and minus 800s in the UFC now. When they give you these kids that are in these layup shots that they're really supposed to win early in their career in the UFC at minus 200, Wiz, I'm going to start trying to bite those. I used to stay completely away from those, but they're just hitting so much now. I'm going to start biting on those. I hear what you're saying. I don't like to parlay the young guys. I don't like to parlay the guys low on the experience, especially coming from a regional show. They're unproven still in the UFC. I feel like I saw everything I need to see, right? I think Luis is destined to be cut by the UFC. If he gets his one win on Saturday and I pay for it, that's going to suck. But I think I'm just going to have to take that chance because I think this kid is the goods. I really think Aiden is going to be something.
Yeah, just looking at this fight, man, and especially after Garuli losing the last two as, considerably moderate to heavy favorite, this is a spot where you kind of want to take him after losing two ridiculous times. But it's just, I cannot, based on that tape,
Yeah.
I cannot. Losing to Jesus Aguilar is like the plague. You want to stay away from it.
Yep. And that's, hey, Wheezy and I talked about it a couple weeks ago, man. Do you dare to catch the falling knife? Do you try to reach out and snag that thing when it's pointed down? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it this week. And to answer my guy in the chat, the It Factor MMA, no, I will not stop fading Jesus Aguilar. I know he keeps cashing, but he's one of the flukiest fucking fighters in the UFC, and it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely insane that every time I bet against that guy, he catches a gilly. I have no idea how it works or why it works, but it does. His victory is tied specifically to my gambling. I can't prove it, but that's the way it works. Oh my Lord. Now the UFC has done me a huge favor this week, you guys. They teed me up just beautifully because we were just talking about my boy Ode Osbourne. He takes on Alibi Idiris in this next fight. And I want to start this preview by saying, you guys know we're separating head from heart here. We're talking gambling. There's no malice. Ode probably has me blocked on all forms of social media because I only ever post picking his opponents, right? I've had multiple UFC fighters come after me for posting my picks going against them. And Ode, if you're listening, I love you, buddy. You're a cool guy. He seems super awesome. He's very nice. I love his personal story. He's got a great attitude. They just keep putting him in bad spots, you guys. Look at Ode's run in the UFC. He's 34 years old, and he's absolutely massive at 125 pounds. That's kind of a red flag to begin with, Wiz, because the older you get, the slower you get, the tougher these weight cuts, that's eventually he's gonna collapse, right? Like this guy can't keep fighting at 125 pounds like that. It's just not gonna happen. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. And let's look at these names, you guys. Steve Erceg, very underrated grappler. I know everybody knows Starboy as a good boxer, but very underrated grappler. Luis Garuli, the wrestler we just talked about. Rolando Rodriguez, a guy who's got nothing but wrestling and subs. Shafel Filo, yeah, he can strike, but he's a BJJ guy. Asu Elmabayev, again, just power wrestler, grappler like that. They are throwing Ode Osbourne to every wrestler, grappler they can find that they even like kind of a little. Like it's trial by fire. They know Ode Osbourne can be taken down. They know Ode Osbourne has cardio concerns. And you're right. Erceg is Astro Boy. I apologize if I misspoke on that fight name. That is my bad, my mistake. I said Starboy. That's Middle Cop. My bad. You're right. You're 1000% correct. Thank you for catching me, Dawes. So back to what I was saying. Ode ruined my night twice over the last couple of years. Was Luis Garuli and Charles Johnson. I still can't get over the split decision to Charles Johnson because a inadvertent cup shot allowed Ode Osbourne to catch his breath. He took the full 5 minutes to recover. This man's cardio problems are so bad. He knew exactly what he had to do, and he got enough gas in the tank to get back into that fight. And that was back in the days of Charles Johnson, where he was still kind of injured, not really fully healthy, and taking like quick turnaround fights. And he dropped the ball on that one. I dropped a pile on that one because I was convinced Charles Johnson was going to just bury Ode Osbourne. And to this day, if the cup shot break hadn't happened, I believe he would have. So Ode knows he's got some gas concerns. Obviously, early in the fight, his first level takedown defense, he's good. He's got strong hips. He stuffs people. He keeps them at range. You don't want to strike with this guy, Wiz. He's got nuclear power at this weight class, and he's got beautiful timing and great counters. He knows what he's doing striking. But as soon as you get him huffing and puffing, his story changes. He falls apart completely. And that's where the UFC is matching him up with Alibi Idiris. This guy is 31 years old. He's coming off the Ultimate Fighter, and he lost the Ultimate Fighter finale. I picked him to win over Joseph Morales. It wasn't the most confident thing in the world. I actually didn't watch that season of the Ultimate Fighter, so I kind of went back and scrubbed just their fights leading up to the breakdown and stuff like that. So I'm not like fully invested. Like I said, the Ultimate Fighter's kind of fallen off in recent years. But I was really blown away by how good Joseph Morales looked in that fight and how bad Alibi Idiris looked in that fight. I loved everything there was about this kid on paper. He is training with my boys, right? The other Kazakhstan monsters over there. He's working with guys like Asu Almabayev and Beksat Alkhaman, like guys that I really have high opinions of. He's long, he's fast, he's got a smooth kicking game, he's got highlight reel KOs, he's got good catch encounters, he can wrestle, and that's where I really thought he was going to smoke this kid. But at 31 years old, you're getting beat by a journeyman who's working his way back to the UFC. That's a massive red flag. So like everything in my soul here screams fade Ode Osbourne, but they've got Alibi Idiris at minus 135 and Ode is the plus 115 underdog. You actually want me to lay chalk on a guy who just got taken out by at this point, nothing against Joseph Morales. Let's see how he does in his second run here at the UFC. But all we know is this guy made it to the UFC, couldn't hack it, and got cut, right? He's back. He's looked incredible since he's been back. So maybe that was the right choice. But for frame of reference, like that's who just took this kid out. I don't know that Idiris is UFC caliber at this point, Wiz. I really don't. And if he's not a UFC caliber grappler, we saw what Ode did to Luis Garuli. I can't be laying chalk here, man. This is a spot where if I was getting plus money on Idiris Alibi, maybe I plug my nose and go, hey, I love betting against Ode Osbourne. We're going to do it again this week. I can't lay chalk on this guy against Ode Osbourne this week. Man, talk some sense into me here. What do you make of this fight?
I've had some trouble with this one, I'll be honest. Looking at this fight, on one hand, you're looking at Alibi Idiris, who did not really show too much in that fight against Joseph Morales. It could have been a one-off, but Morales is, in his second fight, he showed also to be nasty with the jiu-jitsu and overall striking game. So I'm going to cut him some slack with that one. Idiris has shown good takedowns on his previous tape, shown that in the striking he can hold his own. I just think that Ode Osbourne has a really good matchup here, bro. I'm gonna be honest. I think Ode Osbourne is gonna be the much faster striker to the belt, and I think he's gonna be able to defend some of these shots that are coming from Idiris. Now, I'm not saying that Idiris is not gonna be able to land a single takedown, but early on, I think he's gonna have some trouble, and I think he's gonna have to deal with Ode's power. If Ode finds a rhythm early, I think he's gonna be able to touch up Idiris, and if you think you want to take the Idiris side early, just wait until after the first round because you might get a much better line. I'm not encouraging one side or the other. I think this is personally a dog or pass spot because Ode Osbourne has the experience edge, has the advantage when it comes to that strength of schedule by far. I do understand that Idiris is going to be the hungrier fighter here, the fighter that's coming in with a lot more to prove, especially off of that loss, his first loss ever in his career. And Ode Osbourne is the type of guy that will give you that get right spot, if I'm being honest. I personally think that Ode touches him up early and potentially finds a finish, but it likely goes all 3 rounds here. Close split decision type of fight.
Dude, Joseph in the chat killing me, calling Ode Osbourne a Tafa brother. Absolutely killing me with that one. Wiz, I'm kind of with you here on this. I refuse to bet Ode Osbourne against a grappler, man. I've seen this kid grapple. I've seen his scrambles. I've seen his subs. I can't do it. That is my number one path to betting Ode Osbourne fights is you just fade him blindly against grapplers. It's worked out magnificently. I can't do it at this number. So we'll see. You know, maybe this kid from Kazakhstan, they shook him a little bit. They got some sense into his head. He's going to come out with his singlet on, and he's just going to try to take this man down. Asuel Mabayev, this guy, jump on his back, take his neck. I will probably have something somewhere on the submission prop. You know, I like subs this week, Wiz. I don't know what the deal is, but there's multiple fights on this card. I think we see a lot of submissions this week, and I might take a poke at some plus money on a submission prop with Idiris. But outside of that, I can't be super heavily invested, and it would not shock me if Ode caught this guy and put him down too, because I'm not sure he's got it.
Dude, one thing we forgot to do is keep tally of the finishes.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking back. Okay, so do we both think that Carli Judice by knockout is likely?
Yes, we do.
That's one. Do we think there's a finish in the Levitt and Del Valle fight? I do.
Yes, I do.
JPL Phil Rowe.
Yes.
Brahimaj Soriano.
My hot take is the decision, but more than likely, yes.
Edwards Cornoli.
Yes.
Coria Guruli.
Probably. Yeah. I think Coria knocks him out.
And then here
so
we
yeah,
are. That's 6 in a row to start the card, and then here Ode Osbourne against Alibi Idiris. This one maybe could go to decision, I acknowledge, but who knows?
It's going to be one of those cards where the undercard is just stacked and has people foaming at the mouth from all the decision victories, and then
we get
the main card is going to the main card is going to just like put everybody to sleep. It's going to be all decisions for like the last 5 fights in a row. Oh man. All right, guys, real quickly, shouting out Spectation Sports. Please check them out. Promo code diehard will get you 20% off when you sign up. We have not 1 but 2 shows this week, you guys. Cage Titans is back, the Revolution, and my guy Andrew Valdina is fighting in the main event. I am super excited about this kid. Wiz, he is a wonderful prospect. I'm very excited to see what he can do and where he goes from here. AFP is also a really good show. They're going to be running on Saturday as well. So if you want something to tee you up for the UFC, if you like to mulk dice screen the way I do, or, you know, usually they run a little bit later. So after the UFC is over, you can switch on over here as well. And don't worry, you don't have to just catch it live. You can always catch the VOD. So if you just need more current MMA action, if you're looking to bet on fighters or do tape study and research on people who are going to be on Dana White's Contender Series, you're going to need Spectation Sports. They just linked up with LFA, you guys. So like we're expanding. This thing is growing. Jump on while you can and while I can hook you up with 20% off. We are breaking down UFC Houston here on the Die Hard MMA podcast. I am joined by my man, Wiz MMA. So make sure you're giving him a follow, show him some love and support, and let's keep it rolling. The next fight, Chidi Njokuani takes on Carlos Leal. Maybe 2 of the biggest problem fighters for me in recent memory, Wiz. Chidi Njokuani is a guy who I've never, ever been able to get the right read on. When he made it to the UFC, I thought he was kind of a Bellator throwaway, right? He's not going to make it in the UFC. Did pretty well fading him early on. You know, guys like Gregory Rodriguez and Michel Oleksiejczuk. Like I thought he was going to get buried, right? So he starts off okay, falls off a cliff, and then he cuts down to 170 pounds. And I took the shot, Wiz. I took the shot on Reese McKee. And I thought Reese was going to knock him out in the 3rd round. Like, Chidi Njokuani beats this man to within an inch of his life. And Reese McKee does what Reese McKee does and starts pouring it on him towards the end of that fight. I thought I was going to get a late finish and get bailed out. Nope. Chidi survives, hangs on, gets the split decision win. And he's looked incredible since. He had a 3-fight win streak snapped by Jake Matthews in probably one of the flukier Jake Matthews performances we've seen in a long time, Wiz. I told everybody that week, I was like, look, I can't bet this fight because everything in my soul screams that Chidi Njokuani is going to win this fight. And that's mainly based off the fact that Jake Matthews doesn't grapple. Like, he refuses to wrestle. He wants to box everybody. So if he's not going to use his grappling, that's what you have to do to beat Chidi Njokuani. If you take this guy down, if you make him work, if you tire him out, he's a big Ode Osbourne. Like, that's exactly who this man is. So I just know Jake is not going to shoot takedowns. Well, I was half right because Jake did not shoot a takedown. But in some weird scramble, Jake Matthews ends up on the back of Chidi Njokuani, and it's over like that. He got on his back. He tapped him out. It was over immediately. Jake Matthews sub backers, like, you guys can victory lap that one all you want. That should never have happened. So congratulations. I'm glad you won your money, but it was like, the fuck? So man, I just can't get Chidi Njokuani correct. I love his striking. I love his attitude. He's another really cool seeming guy. Big body kicks. He kicks like a mule. This dude has Muay Thai that is just filthy. I was stunned when he knocked out Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. That was a big eye opener for me. And he's taken on Carlos Leal. This guy comes over from PFL, and I knew him from the PFL, and I was going, you know what? He might be one of the few people who can make the hop and then actually do some damage. I was pretty high on Carlos Leal coming over. I still, to this day, think he beat Rinat Fakhretdinov, and I'm never, ever going to get that money back. It makes me so sad. So he's sparks Alex Morono. And here we are, plant the flag. Carlos Leal has arrived. He's 1-1. He should be 2-0. And everyone rushes to the window to fade 47-year-old Muslim Salikov. And he just gets smoked. 42 seconds. Leal puts this guy in a box. I was grateful that I passed that night. He was such a big favorite. It fell in that category for me of the guys that I'm not going to lay that kind of money on. So thank God I didn't get in there. So he's now 1-2 in his first 3 UFC fights. And what exactly is he? Right? He's a roided up back knee monster who wants to come forward and wing heavies. That's only going to take you so far in the UFC. If he comes out here and pursues a wrestling heavy, grindy type of fight against Chidi, I think maybe he can win. But what's crazy, Wiz, is this line opened up with Carlos Leal in like the minus 200s. Money has flooded in on Chidi Njokuani, you guys. We are now sitting here looking at a relative pick'em here. Leal is a minus 135. Chidi is a plus 115 dog. And this opened up incredibly wide. Now, if this gets to evens, if Chidi flips to favorite, like, then you guys need to start worrying if you've got any money on Carlos Leal. As long as they don't let that number flip, like maybe you're okay. Maybe you're a little bit live there. But Carlos Leal is just a monster. He wants to wade forward. He wants to wing heavies. He wants to hurt you and just put you in the floor. I don't know that that's going to work against Chidi Njokuani here, Wiz. Chidi can keep the range. He can kick him off of him. He'll be able to, work his knees and elbows when he gets in close. Carlos is probably not going to go to grapple heavy game plan. And we just saw him get knocked out. He's making a really quick turnaround too. He got iced by old man Salikov. And that was, well, I guess it was in July. So it's been long enough at this point. I thought it was in like November. So that's my bad. Memory's a little rocked on that one. But still, it's his first fight back coming off of a bad knockout loss, and they're feeding him Chidi. This is tough, man. I think this is a dog or pass fight at this point. Not a big fan of this matchup for Carlos Leal. Wiz, what about you?
Okay, so this is where my brain really starts flowing, because this is just stand up versus stand up. None of these guys are really going to shoot for takedowns. At least you don't expect them to. Chidi Njokuani, one of the highest credentialed Muay Thai guys in the UFC, really holds that high guard, is trained by his brother, who is one of the best Muay Thai practitioners. And when it comes to the coaching side, Anthony Njokuani, he also coaches a ton of others in the UFC too. So that just speaks to the pedigree that's not just built in the family, but he trains under him too. And then you look at Carlos Leal. Carlos Leal is someone who, a little bit more of like the winged punches, throwing from the hip, a lot of overhands, but he lands pretty well, and he's educated when he mixes up levels. I like to relate this fight a lot to his fight in the PFL against Sadabusi. I've done media for the PFL a lot, and I've interviewed. I don't know why I drew a blank there. I've interviewed Leal a couple of times, and a lot of the answers he's given me have been towards like game plan and how he watches tape a lot and he really pays attention to these guys' tendencies, which is something that you want to see in a fighter. Most fighters should be doing this without having to mention it. But just speaking to the styles here, Muay Thai fighters, you're standing upright, you're face to face, you're not really moving around to dodge, you're accepting the damage through your guard and you're covering up effectively and you're returning. So it's a give and take game when it comes to the damage. And I spoke about this briefly on the show with Liam a couple of weeks ago when Rafael Fiziev was fighting Mauricio Rufy. I thought that Rafael Fiziev will be able to land the leg kicks. I thought he was going to be able to freeze Rufy until one shot landed because Fiziev is just going to stand right in front of him and accept it. That's just how Muay Thai guys do it. That's how I do it. It's just known in the style. And all it takes is one for one to land, and Leal has big power. If Chidi's guard gets lazy at any point in this fight, he has the risk of getting put out. And I think that Leal is a type of guy that can put him out. I really am a big fan of Chidi. And if he is able to effectively push this fight up to the clinch and land his knees and his elbows up close, he can also finish Leal. But if this fight stays upright and the center of the cage, I think Leal can land leg kicks of his own, which he's shown in the past, and also mix it up to the body and then to the head with his power shots and land a knockout blow because Chidi Njokuani has shown to be somewhat more fragile in his most recent couple of UFC fights before the lead up to his win streak. For me, I'm predicting Leal to win this fight by knockout in round 1 or round 2. That's most likely where he can get it before he starts to gas out because he is someone who is pretty muscled out and his arms will start to slow as the fight goes on. Otherwise, I think Chidi decision is a sneaky look.
Wow. Okay. I will say Chidi is one of those guys that kind of blue balls a little bit when it comes to the finish. Like you think he is going to absolutely bury somebody. He's got 9 wins by decision. He absolutely can and does pick and poke people and drag them the distance from time to time. I've bet on Chidi by knockout several times and been disappointed. So that's a sneaky look, and I completely understand it. Also, side note, Chidi sweats more than any man I know. If you his post-fight interviews are hysterical because he's like it's the gif of the guy where they're just like pouring a cup of water like on his head to make it look like he's sweating. He's like spitting on whoever he's talking to with the microphone because it's just running down him. He's drenched every time. It's hilarious. Some people sweat, some people don't. Chidi's a sweater, man. He absolutely gets drenched in there every time. I like the decision call. I like that. That's sneaky. All right. Yes, It Vector knows what's up. Airplane. All right, guys. Next up, Zach Reese takes on Michel Pereira. And Wiz, I did my my pre-show meme work on this fight. Who do you fade in this fight? Because I want to fade Zachary Reese. Okay. I've made no bones about it. I don't think this guy is UFC level. He is a fluky meme type fighter. He wins off of his back way more often than anything else. He's chinny. He's gassy. I planted my flag with Jackson McVeigh, and McVeigh had him on the ropes in round 1 and then adrenaline dumped Wiz. I was right there, man. It was so close. And then he had nothing left in the gas tank. And Zach Reese is good at one thing, and that's chokes. He's good at grappling. He was able to find his way back to that fight and got him out of there. I was so upset because it really looked like McVeigh was going to put him down in that first round. But it's really tough, man. Even you go back to like the Jose Medina fight, and Zach Reese basically got tired punching a punching bag. Medina looked like he would be able to get that fight done if he could mount any offense, any whatsoever. And he just kind of didn't. And Zach still almost gassed out. He got knocked out by Cody Brundage, guys. Like, this guy is, you don't want your hard-earned money on Zach Reese. You just don't. And somehow, those of you who have bet on him, I know he's got 4 fights and 2 losses. So you guys are doing good not listening to me. But I swear, he's going to get exposed the second they stop giving him softballs. I feel like this is that fight, Wiz. I feel like this is that fight. Michel Pereira, 31 and 14, 32 years old. The problem is this guy is just as much of a meme fighter as Zachary Reese is. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, 2 of those losses by knockout. Now, granted, one of those was to Fluffy, who we'll talk about a little bit later on in the card. Lots of parity with the matchups here this week. And he just got cooked, right? Just absolutely got cooked by Fluffy Hernandez, which there's no shame in. There's no problem with that. Losing a decision to Abus Magomedov, though, let me try that again. Abus Magomedov. Losing a decision to Abus Magomedov is a problem because that guy's got a terrible gas tank whiz. Like, if you can't out hustle Abus, you've got problems. And then getting flatlined. I mean, just absolutely taken out back old Yeller style by Kyle freaking Daukaus. Now, Daukaus is better than we gave him credit for. He's on a bit of an uptrend right now. He's streaking at the moment. So take that one with a grain of salt. But stepping in the cage and getting nuked by Daukaus, that's not a good look. That's unforgivable. Michel Pereira is 3-3 since moving up to 185 pounds. And he was just a beast at 170. I thought he was going to really let loose when he got to 185. And at first it looked like that's what he was doing. 3 round 1 finishes back to back to back. The guy's got a tight squeeze on him. He can grapple. He can strike. He does point fight a little too much where he's not really trying to put people down. I think he tries to conserve himself and he worries about his cardio still to some extent. And he just kind of has been exposed the last couple fights. So this is where I really want to fade Zachary Reese. I really want to fade him, but I don't really want to put my money on Michel Pereira. Now, it does look like some money has moved because Michel Pereira was, I think, minus 155 just a little earlier today. He's up to minus 160, minus 165. So the line is trending that direction. This is the kind of fight where I don't know where Zach Reese has an advantage. Pereira might fuck up. He might gas himself dancing on the way to the cage again, but he can outstrike someone like Reese. He has enough power to get the respect from somebody like Reese. If Reese grapples with him, Pereira can submit Reese. So, like, I have a real hard time making an argument for Zachary Reese in this spot because Michel Pereira, more often than not, is winning or losing by decision. He's not a minute winner. He's a finisher. And I think he can finish a guy who's fragile the way Zach Reese is. So I am leaning towards Michel Pereira. Kind of wish I had bet it earlier in the week when it was cheaper. The wider this line gets, the less interest I have in it. But we're counting finishes, Wiz. I'm pretty sure this is another finish. And I think Michel Pereira is going to be the one that gets it done. I lean to him knocking out Zach Reese this week. Who are you fading?
Man, you go back, Clint, and you look at the old tape of Michel Pereira, the young Michel Pereira, who used to jump off the cage and do backflips in fights. Oh, we missed that Michel Pereira. Right now, Michel Pereira seems to be a shell of himself, someone who does not do all of the acrobatics, which quite frankly, I think helped him catch his rhythm, helped him be more unpredictable, which gave guys a little bit more trouble when it comes to the game planning against him. Now he goes out there, he's throwing 3 to 4 minutes of power shots, and he starts to gas out and eventually starts to fold. The longer this fight goes, the more it goes in favor of Zach Reese, in my opinion. Both of these guys are fades. I'm not a fan of either guy at their current state. I just have to go with I'm going to say it again, the younger fighter in terms of fight years here with Zach Reese as a prediction, because I think he throws the straighter shots. I think he's a little bit more dangerous wherever this fight goes, whether it's in the grappling, whether it is in the striking, for the sole reason that he just has less damage taken, along with, just overall having that 4-inch reach advantage is going to be helpful when it comes to defending strikes in this fight. I would be surprised if Michel Pereira initiates takedowns here. I think Zach Reese is going to be the one that actually shoots for takedowns and tries to take Michel down, because That's where he's going to have his biggest advantage when it's on the mat. As he gets Michel down onto the mat, he's going to look for those elbows and look for those transitions to the back and find a submission. That's how I predict this fight to go. Another submission here in the record for Zachary Reese. But am I betting this fight? No. Oh, no. I like to separate this. Picks are not bets. They're two different things. As my guy at 138 MMA says, the picks are separate and the bets are separate. We are not touching this fight with a 10-foot pole. The over-under is 1.5 rounds, shaded to the under at -125. I think this fight ends early, and I do like that under 1.5 if you wanted to sprinkle something just for fun. But I personally am staying away. I think this fight's going to be fun to watch, and I would like to have no money near it because I like my sanity.
See, I gave away my sanity long ago, Wiz, so I'm sure that won't be a hang up for your boy. Violence for sure. Lean to Pereira KO. I think Zach Reese has a bad chin, and I think Zach Reese has bad cardio. But this is absolutely the old fireball and popcorn fight. Now, make sure you get your fireball and popcorn set up before the fight starts. You don't want to miss this one. It should be over in a hurry potentially. So don't blink. But yeah, definitely one you probably don't want to have your money on unless you're a degenerate like myself. Premium says, I'm with you, Clint, on this one. Reese Peanut Butter Sticks hasn't beat anybody that scares me at this point. And yeah, that's the thing. He's got absolutely no wins that mean anything to me at this stage. Like everybody who Zach Reese has fought has been cut by the UFC, like win or lose. Like he's just not a good fighter. Now, this does concern me a little bit, Barry, bringing up the point that apparently he's been streaming all week. He's doing like, gaming live streams and stuff like that. I mean,
what?
A lot of fighters are doing that. So I get it that it's like everybody's got to have, either some downtime or a side hustle. It's good to get you out there in the public eye. If you're trying to, climb the UFC rankings, they want you to have followers and hype and all that kind of stuff. And he's got to have a post UFC something going on. So, I don't know enough about that to say whether or not I feel like that impacts anything. If he was doing like, you know what I mean? Like all-nighter type streams. If he was like balls deep in those streams on fight week, maybe we got a problem, right? But I'm not tuning in. So I don't know if it's that bad. We'll see. Right now, I'm with Wiz. Just a lean. I lean the other way. But I'm probably closer to betting it than he is.
Clint, are these fighters not allowed to have a life outside of training? Are they not allowed to have some fun and play some video games online?
No, they're not allowed to play video games, Wiz. They're not allowed to walk the dogs, and they certainly cannot have a dating life. Taboo. All right, guys. Next fight up. Jacobe Smith takes on Josiah Harrell. Short notice fill-in, I believe. Josiah Harrell. I believe I heard something about this fight getting shuffled a little bit here, Wiz. And if you guys don't recall Josiah, he was, interestingly enough, supposed to make his UFC debut back in 2023. He was going to fill in and take on Jack Della Maddalena, but he had a medical issue. He did not get cleared. Apparently, Josiah was born with some kind of a brain disorder, and he had some sort of a issue is not the wrong word, a flare up. I don't know. He had something that the doctors couldn't clear him to fight. So since that took place, he took a year and a half off. He had a surgery. You can see the scar on the side of his head. He's looked really good coming back. He's on a 4-fight win streak, and 3 of those 4 fights are by way of finish. So he's looked really great since that. And now he finally gets his UFC opportunity. So this is kind of crazy, Wiz, because we've got 2 undefeated fighters going at it early on in their UFC run, 11-0 versus 11-0. Stakes are high for these guys. Stakes are absolutely massive for this fight. I kind of like, pardon me, got the hiccups all of a sudden for some reason. I like Jacobe Smith. He is I described him as Isaac Dulgarian at 170 pounds. We've got to have the asterisk now of, no fight fixing Dulgarian at 170 pounds. But I like the way this kid wrestles, man. He's super explosive. He's super athletic. He bites down on the mouthpiece and he swings his way into range. That's the one thing I kind of have a little bit of a problem with, was it's almost desperate the way he tries to close the distance. Like, he knows he's fast. He knows he hits like an absolute Mack truck, but he doesn't want you to hit him. So he fires everything he's got, throwing big wild hooks, big punches, and if he just slams into you and can get his hands on you, that's fine. He'll ride the rest of the round, right? He'll take you down, he'll get on your back. His transitions are really quick. He's got some submissions. His ground and pound is nasty. I really like Jacobe Smith. He is 2-0 so far in the UFC, both wins by way of finish, but his last fight against Niko Price raised a couple of red flags because in the first round, Jacobe went for broke trying to get Niko Price out of there, and he couldn't quite get it done. When round 2 started, he was completely tanked. He was gasping for air. There was a moment in the fight where he was almost running from Niko Price. I mean, he was like backpedaling quickly across the cage, kind of trying to just get some space. And the referee actually had to like call him back and reset him because he was not fighting. He was like trying to get away from Niko Price just long enough to catch his breath. Now his strategy worked. He ends up getting the fight to the ground, hits a nasty transition, chokes out Niko Price, round 2 win. But we saw what we saw. The gas tank is a bit of an issue. He's incredibly athletic. He's incredibly explosive, but it comes at a cost. Josiah Harrell is like a little meaty boxer. He's really thick. He's got a big back on him. He's heavy on his feet. He likes to come forward and wing big power punches. He attacks the body. He isn't very flashy, Wiz. He's very meat and potatoes striking from what I can see. The issue I have is there's this guy, Keegan Ginrich, who he fought. He's 10-5. And actually, interestingly enough, that guy also lost to John Paul, who we talked about earlier on the card. So he's kind of a feeder veteran regional type guy, right? That guy took Harrell down multiple times. Now, Harrell was good enough to fight for underhooks, to fight his way to the cage, to work his way back up to the feet. But there were enough moments where he got taken down and he made dangerous, high risk, high reward type of decisions, giving up his back, rolling, stuff like that to work his way back to the feet. I think Harrell's got a bit of a grappling deficiency. So I can see this fight kind of playing out 2 ways. I could see Harrell getting exposed here in this fight, where Jacobe Smith is just able to hustle him on the mat, in which case I think he probably gets submitted relatively quickly. The other flip side of that is if Harrell is able to stuff and get back to his feet and do what he needs to do. Whoops, highlighted the wrong comment there. My bad. I think he can potentially gas out Jacobe Smith, and Harrell's got some decent pop in his hands. There could be a late finish in this fight. I could see a late finish from him if he's able to survive. The problem is I don't think he'll be able to. So I'm going to pick Jacobe Smith to win this thing via submission. Again, Wiz, I know. I feel like Jewish better up here. I'm calling subs left and right. Every other fight is a submission here this week. I just really, I think they line up that way pretty well. He's a minus 300 favorite at this point. Josiah Harrell is plus 240, plus 250. I like the favorite, but with the gas tank issues, I can't lay that number on him. Sub prop, maybe you can talk me into it. But more than likely going to end up being a pass because of the weird last minute shuffle and because I don't like cardio issues at minus 300.
All right. I don't have a tinfoil hat, but
what do we got?
we're gonna put a napkin on my head. Man, I taping this fight and I'm looking at the strength of schedule for Jacobe Smith. And Clint, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but up until he fought Christian Savoy in the Contender Series, this guy has fought 5-6, 9-24, 5-9, 13-9, 12-11, 7-5 level opposition on the regional scene. In Fury FC. And I'm not saying he's not skilled. I'm not saying he's not talented. We're taking off the napkin. But man, Josiah Harrell is, if anything, he's a dog. And he will go out there and he will give it his all. And he is scrambly as a motherfucker. Like, he is very scrambly. He will go out there and really go toe to toe with you for as long as he can last. If he's able to stay away from the power shots on the feet and really just create this wrestling match dynamic against Jacobe Smith, I think that's the path to victory for him, at least to slow Jacobe down. And if he's able to survive the wrestling for a round and a half, oh boy, we're live. And when I say we're live, we're taking Josiah Harrell money line, baby.
Ooh.
Josiah Harrell is going to be able to, I think, last the first round and a half of hell against Jacobe and land shots of his own. When Jacobe starts to slow down, Josiah is going to be the one taking Jacobe down. And I think he's going to be nasty with his elbows. You look at his last fight against Dozmatov. Yeah, that guy is a little bit of a gasser, but he dealt with him accordingly. Dozmatov is a decent wrestler when fresh, and he was able to out-scramble him, outlast him, similar to how I think this fight's going to go. And he laid a beating on him in round 3 and got him out there by TKO stoppage from the corner. The corner threw the towel in that fight. Like, that's how bad he was beating Dozmatov in round 3. And his cardio checks out. So for me, this is the ultimate spot for fade on Jacobe Smith. I want to do it now before we can do it later.
The tissue of truth has spoken. The Wiz likes himself a big dog here in this spot. I respect it. The only other thing I will say that has me leaning on the Jacobe Smith side of things, though, am I seeing correctly, Wiz? I think DC is training this kid. Now,
look, my affiliation with Torres Finin. He's been training at DC's for a long time now, since I want to say September.
Love Torres.
I haven't seen Jacobe Smith in any of the posts. Torres hasn't told me anything of him being there. For those who don't know, me and Torres, I do game playing for Torres Finney. Unfortunate that he tore his LCL in the first minute of his last fight. Shit happens. But no, I don't think Jacobe Smith is there unless he's just kept it under wraps.
Okay. Now he's posted a couple shots on Instagram, and DC is like coaching him. I don't, obviously I don't know where it's at. So maybe DC is like traveling with him, which it would give me even more confidence. Guys, I'm a huge Daniel Cormier guy. I was when he was fighting. I am now. If Daniel Cormier has taken this kid under his wing, I'm buying. So that's I won't be fading him on that alone. But I respect everybody taking the shot. Now, real quick though, Wiz, since we mentioned Torres, I mean, first off, I hope he's doing well. I could not believe watching that fight, because the second that happened, when I saw him do that little hop thing, I've watched enough football. When someone's running a route and they pull up and they go down and they grab their knee and it's non-contact, like immediately when he put his foot down and he pulled it up like that, I went, oh no. I had a bet on Finney that night. I was like, something just happened. And I am shocked he went through the entire rest of that fight on one leg. It's insane that he was able to stay in that fight. I'm not gonna lie, I gave him a little bit of shit, because nobody should be getting dropped by Jacob Malkoun on the feet, right? But if you're fighting on one leg, little bit of a different story. So that makes perfect sense now after having this whole thing played out. But I couldn't feel worse for the guy, and I admire his toughness for hanging around the way he did after having that kind of an injury happen that early in the fight. I hope he's doing okay. Is he hanging in there?
Quite unfortunate. He actually got surgery a couple of days ago to repair the LCL, so that went well, thankfully, and he's in good spirits. He knows that, the fight would have definitely played out differently. Maybe the outcome not so different. Maybe it was going to be a win for Finney. Who knows? It's like the fight really didn't happen. You tear your LCL in the first minute of the fight. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, nobody's coming back from that. So that's rough, man. I hope he recovers quick. I hope he recovers well. And, can't wait to see him back in the cage. Send him our regards. Next fight up, you guys, we've got Serghei Spivac taking on Ante Delija. So the meme machine working overtime over here was, I posted a meme of Serghei Spivac being like terrified because they're cutting guys like Jailton Almeida. What do you do? What do you do? Like, the polar bear Wiz has just never developed. I know he's a heavyweight and these guys have long careers. They can hang around because they're big and they're strong. And The power is the last thing to go. And so I expected a long, healthy career from Serghei Spivac. He's 17-6, but boy, has he fallen on tough times lately. 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Gets beaten up on the feet by Waldo Cortez Acosta, gets TKO'd by Gelton Almeida, gets nuked by Cyril Gane. And then the one win that he's got in that stretch was another fluke. Marcin Tybura put this guy on his back, and Marcin's never been armbarred his entire career. And somehow Serghei Spivac snags an armbar as he's fallen down to his back. That's the only win he's got in the last 3 years. So I'm starting to worry about Serghei Spivac. Not to mention, the guy is having trouble getting in the cage at this point. Now, it looks a lot of rescheduling and moving around, but he's had like 4 canceled fights in like the last year, which usually they note if it's an injury or something like that. I'm not seeing anything like that, but still, when guys struggle to make it to the cage, it's kind of a sign of outside forces sometimes, right? Like sometimes it means more than just a couple of rescheduled fights. So I'm a little worried about Serghei Spivac and his future at this point. If he can't get on top of people and bully them in the cage, he's got a nasty submission game. Right? He's got a relentless chain grappling game. We saw what he did to Derek Lewis. So if he can out hustle you on the mat, he's still dangerous. There's a group of fighters, 12 and under, 15 and under, that Serghei's still just going to maul. I don't know that Ante's one of those guys, though. Ante Delija coming from PFL, 26-7, 35 years old. He is making a short turnaround here, which is always concerning. He got nuked by Waldo Cortez Acosta in his last fight back in November. This is the fighter who I was thinking about when I mentioned earlier the short turnaround. This is who I was talking about. So far, he's 1-1 in the UFC. He got his vengeance on Marcin Tybura, and it looked like he was doing really well against Waldo, who's the hottest prospect at MMA these days, apparently. He was doing really well against Waldo until the eye poke happened, and then he got a rage mode, fury-filled Waldo Cortez Acosta that just put his face through the back of his skull with one shot after it looked like they should have called the fight. Wild turn of events for that one. I don't know what to make of Waldo at this point after that, but Ante's got good, strong wrestling, man. That's always been kind of his thing. He can wrestle if he wants to. He can grapple if he wants to. He's big. He's physically strong. I don't know that Serghei's going to have success wrestling in this fight. And if he doesn't have success wrestling, he loses to this guy on the feet. And I've seen Serghei Spivac fold before, man. I have heart concerns about Serghei Spivac, if I'm being honest. You've got a short favorite price tag on Ante. It does look like some money has come in here on Serghei. Serghei's like plus 125-ish right now. It's a heavyweight fight. It's greasy. It's nasty. One guy is coming off of getting knocked out just a couple months ago, which is never good. And the other guy couldn't put a win together in the last 3 years. This is a pass if I've ever seen one, Wiz. I'm going to pick Ante Delija in this fight because I think he can chuck takedowns and then put his hands together. And I think he's really trying to kind of do what Kyoji Horiguchi is doing. I think he's trying to make a hustle for that UFC belt before he gets too old to do so. So I think he's taking this fight to turn around real quick to get himself right back in the mix. But I think it's a decent fight for him. So I'm going to pick Ante, but I don't have any faith in it whatsoever. You didn't unmute yet, my guy. Oh, and now you might be frozen. The rain got Wiz. You guys, I think the rain got Wiz. We've been doing well right up until the final 3 fights of the card, and then the rain got my boy Wiz. Oh, no. It's all right. I'm sure he will disconnect and reconnect. I'm sure we'll get him back. Oh, wait. He's alive.
Okay, how are we now?
You're good. I can hear you now. You're good.
Okay, we switched over to the hotspot on the phone. I think this rain situation is getting worse. Okay, glad that we're good now. So I was saying this is one of my favorite fights on the card. I really think that Ante Delija was kind of screwed out of his last fight. When we've seen this time and time again, when fights get stopped and then resumed, when one fighter's under the impression that they won, their whole adrenaline dumps, everything's gone.
Yeah.
Ante Delija wins the fight against Waldo Cortez Acosta. They rule it. No, the fight continues because it was an eye poke or something along those lines. Adrenaline's gone. He's dead to rights. Waldo goes out there and knocks him out. Not saying that Waldo couldn't have knocked him out in an ordinary fight setting, but when your adrenaline dumps, it's just hard to recover from it. Ask Jake Matthews against Neil Magny. Ask a lot of these fights. It's just something that is in human psychology. You kind of don't have that nervous energy anymore. That nervous energy is what keeps you on your toes and what keeps you alert. So I think he kind of got screwed out of his last one. And going up against Serghei Spivac, yeah, I think Spivac could maybe land some takedowns here. But as long as this fight is on the feet, I don't understand how Spivac is going to deal with the striking of Ante. And let's not forget a couple of fights ago, Serghei Spivac against Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida KO'd this guy. I understand it was from back mount, but he was landing big shots against him on the feet. Jailton Almeida is not a striker. So it's just very concerning. And then Ante Delija is someone who I think is the goods. I don't think he's just another random heavyweight coming from the PFL. I do rate him pretty highly. Ante Delija via knockout here for me.
Okay. We're seeing eye to eye on that one, and it's another finish for the counter for everybody. Next up, you've got Dan Ige. 50K takes on the Dalmatian. Melquizael Costa, who may actually be the hottest prospect in the UFC right now. This guy is flying up the ladder, Wiz. And frankly, I cannot keep up. I keep doubting Melky Costa. I don't know what it is. The way he fights just doesn't impress me, right? Like, I don't know what it is. He's got a really good, clean kicking game. He keeps the distance and he keeps the space. He wrestles well. He's got decent subs. It was one of those ones where I'm like, I see everything going well for him, and that's great. But like the decision against Juicy J, the decision against my boy C-Rod, who was undersized for the weight class, I was like, man, these are kind of disappointing. And then he took Morgan Charrier's head off. And I was like, okay, there it is. That's the one I was waiting for. Because, like, if you're going to break through, you can't be decisionating these guys that are old and small, right? Like, if you're going to be a real threat in this weight class, you better be going out there finishing people. And I just wasn't overly impressed. Like, even, the Shah Yulan, he's kind of a bum. Like, the Andre Fili, that looked fixed. So, like, there were question marks. And then the decisions against Arosa, it was all piecing together for this guy to kind of be a fraud. And I'm all aboard. Now that he knocked out a guy who's never been finished before with a head kick, I went back and I rewatched the tape, Wiz, and he actually hit Julian Arosa with the exact same head kick. He almost knocked out Julian Arosa in the first round of their fight as well. So I'm all in. I like Melky Costa now. I'm a believer. The kid has convinced me. He can win by sub. He can win by knockout. He can win by decision. The kid has all bases covered, and that's what you're looking for in a prospect. Dan Ige, 19-10, 34 years old, one of the best gatekeepers we have ever seen. I mean that respectfully. He gives everybody hell. He gets in there and scraps with everybody. Decent scrambling. He can be taken down, but he's tough to control. He's very strong. He hits hard. So if you've got any type of durability issues, this guy can hurt you. And we've seen that time and time again. So you got to watch your P's and Q's. If you're a top 5 fighter, you'll beat Dan Ige. That's just how it goes. Now, I will say he tends to be a little low volume. You look at his last 3-4 fights, he's always 42 to 47 significant strikes over the course of a 15-minute fight. He watches a little too much, and I think that's what kind of costs him in these big fights, these big moments. If he could put his foot on the gas just a little bit more, he would win more of these fights. I could not believe he lost to Pipple in his last fight. That was the one that kind of sealed the deal for me, that maybe we're starting to see the fall of Dan Ige, because he's only lost to the best of the best. And while Pitbull is a legend, he really just sat back and did nothing in that fight. It was really concerning how comfortable he was watching that fight slip through his fingers. I think Melky is the side here in this fight. I think he'll have the volume edge. We have seen him get clipped and hurt on the feet before. So as always, Dan Ige has a puncher's chance. But until somebody actually finishes Ige, I'm not betting it's going to happen. So I think it's a Melky Costa by decision spot. The over 2.5 is minus 230. That might be a better way to approach it. Because if Dan Ige does win the fight, he also probably is not finishing. We have seen Melquizael Costa Cotton knocked out before, but that was by Steve Garcia. I don't know that Dan Igue's got that level of power, so I kind of think it's going to be a 15-minute fight one way or the other. What do you think of this one?
Not my favorite fight on the board, I'll be honest. Melky Costa has been someone who I've been up and down on. The fight against Shalon, not the greatest of looks. Against Feely, just that looked very weird also. Just threw his head in there after really putting it on him in the first round. The Erosa fight was very impressive. I'll give him that. And then the KO against Sherry, look, I'm not taking anything away from him when it comes to that fight. But like, how often is that going to happen? What is the likelihood of that happening again if they were to run the fight back 10 times? I would like to argue it's less than 5%. A
Not
head
likely.
kick knockout that early is just it's very unlikely. But I'm not taking anything away. Props to him. He's shown to have extreme dexterity when it comes to the kicking game, whether it's to the body, to the head, to the legs, from both sides. So I'll give Costa that. Dan Ige, I will say something that is very known about him. If he doesn't find the finish, he's just not reliable to put together a solid 15 minutes of fighting in the cage. It's just what it is. He goes out there, he wrestles, he averages less than a takedown per fight. He just tries to knock your head out, and that's it. It's 50 for a reason. He goes out there looking for the highlight. So I think Dan Ige, outside of a knockout, does not win this fight. More often than not, I think Costa is going to be able to dance along the outside of the cage. Sure, the small cage does favor Ige slightly here, but I think Costa can land the kicks to deter Ige, keep him at bay, and win a competitive but clear 29-28 decision. That's the way I see this fight going.
I'm with you. And the plus 3.5 on Dan Ige, if you guys want a little something, it's chalky. You got to lay a little bit of a price on it, but you get that extra judges scorecard. I think he can make this fight close. I'm with you, Wiz. I think it's close. I think it's a 29-28. They probably give it to Melky. The right guy wins type of thing. But I think it's a competitive fight as well. Yeah, we're in agreement on that one. And I'll be honest with you, man. This is not the point in time that I should say this. My viewers are going to tank here. I love this undercard. I think the main 3-4 fights of this card, not nearly as fun to talk about as the undercard fights. So, sorry to bury the lead there, guys, but I guess let's break these last couple fights down. Geoff Neal and Uros Medic. You guys, I don't feel like I need to waste very much breath here. Uros has had his moments in the UFC. Uros has had his sparks. He's a round one or bust fighter. He's kill or be killed. He's fun to watch. This guy is not going to last in the cage against Geoff Neal. Hands of stone, hands of steel, Geoff Neal, whatever you want to call him. Hands of steel, Neal has had some problems over the course of the UFC, but he's one of the slickest boxers we've ever seen. He's got 10 wins by KO. He misses out on the contender circle. Who beats this guy? Shavkat, Ian Gary, Carlos Prates. He got out-hustled by Stephen Thompson. Okay. Like, everybody else he's nuking, right? Like, so this guy, Uros Medic, has no defense whatsoever. That makes him fun. The UFC will let this guy hang around forever because he's got a 100% finish rate. Win or lose, there is no draw. Somebody's dying in round one every time Uros Medic gets in the cage. Shout out to Geoff Neal. Apparently he got clean, so he's been struggling with like alcohol abuse problems and stuff like that for the last couple of years. If that is true and accurate, I expect an even better version of him than we've seen in the past. So I don't understand where Uros wins this fight outside of like a fluke round one KO. If they both go and Uros lands first, maybe he gets his knockout win. But it should be Geoff Neal, and I think he buries Uros Medic. What about you, Wiz?
I don't think I need to say anything other than Geoff Neal on one knockout.
Okay. Yeah, we're seeing that one lined up.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't think that Medic has anything for Geoff Neal here. Geoff Neal is such an educated striker defensively, let alone offensively. He's going to be able to see the shots from Medic coming from a mile away. The one thing I like about Medic is he doesn't wing overhands. He throws straight. So that sneaky power is a thing. And if he, disguises a shot, it will land. But Geoff Neal has shown durability, like multiple fights in a row now. the elbow against Carlos Prates, that's just something that everyone's going to get knocked out by. So no shame in that. But yeah, I think he bodies Neal round 1.
Agreed. Getting knocked out by Carlos Prates does not make you a chinny person. So I'm with you. I think Geoff Neal can take one, and Uros will not be able to take what comes back. And he's just more sophisticated. You know what I mean? When they get in there, if he's able to see that first shot coming, he'll counter with something that Uros won't be able to avoid.
Well, just look at the step down in competition. I mean, he goes from fighting Prates, Dos Anjos, Ian Gary, Shavkat, and Vicente Luque to Uros Medic. No disrespect to Uros Medic, but yeah.
All right. Yep. No use wasting any more time on that one. We're lined up good, man. All right, everybody. It is main event of the evening. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the show if you haven't. And of course, make sure you're supporting Wiz and give him a follow. His information is in the description below on this video. We are talking Sean Strickland versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. The UFC decided we are tired of watching these two cardio machines cook other people, and they threw them both in the cage together this weekend. That has always been the calling card, Wiz, of both of these guys. Sean Strickland, he's a jab merchant. This guy doesn't have power anymore, right? He's finished one guy in the last 5 years, I want to say. And it was Abus Magomedov when he completely gassed out and fell apart in round 2. Sean doesn't finish anybody. He's going to decisions constantly, and he doesn't do a whole lot of damage. I mean, don't get me wrong, 25 minutes of getting peppered in the face, people have some swelling and stuff like that, but he's not out there hurting people, right? He went to a split decision with Paulo Costa, and they tried to rob him blind just a couple of fights ago. They got close. Back-to-back losses to Dricus du Plessis. There's no shame in that. He did beat Israel Adesanya, but Izzy fell off so freaking hard. Really, I don't think anything of the moment he got gold. And I know that sounds crass for me, right? Guy off the couch says UFC champion's a bum, but I think Israel would have lost to a lot of people that night. That was not Israel Adesanya that night. I think there's a lot of fighters who would have taken the belt from him. He lost to Dricus back-to-back. His split win over Paulo was closer than you'd like. And then you go back before that, and we're talking Abus, Imavov before he leveled up, Cannonier, Pereira. It's tough for Sean Strickland. He's going to go out there and work. He's going to go out there and jab. He's going to make it a fight. But it's going to go 25 minutes if he's winning the fight, and it's going to be close, and it's not going to be overly entertaining. And he might do the Russian kick dance in the center of the cage every once in a while. Like it's a weird thing with Sean Strickland these days. Anthony Hernandez, on the other hand, 15-2, 32 years old, weaponized cardio incarnate. Like, this man goes out there, gets in your face, backs you up with shots, takes you down, and it's rinse and repeat. He's like Merab at 100 and at 185 pounds. This guy just wants to cook you. And as he takes you down over and over and over and over again, these guys that are generally speaking durable and hard to finish, he has no problem showing them the door late in the fight. I mean, even a guy like Roman Dolidze, who's just made out of absolute steel, the guy doesn't get finished. He got subbed in round 4 because he was tired. What do tired people do, ladies and gentlemen? Tired people tap. And Anthony Hernandez is more than happy to take your neck and get you out of there late in a fight. Can he do that to a guy like Sean Strickland? I'm not entirely certain, Wiz. I'm really not. Because one thing about Sean is he's a really good grappler. He has been taken down before. Kamaru Usman was able to kind of wreck him back in the day. Dricus in the first fight was able to take him down 6 times. Fluffy is obviously more technical with the takedowns than a guy like Dricus is, so I do think he'll be able to get takedowns, but Sean is notoriously hard to hold down. He's hard to control. He knows how to get back up, and he's very good with his submission defense as well. That's the thing. A lot of people, rumors, flying around was that Sean is a very good and high-level black belt. He just never wants to use it, right? So he doesn't want to grapple, and that's the problem. So I can see Fluffy taking him down. If Sean keeps getting back up, who gasses out first? This might be the only guy on the roster who has as good of cardio as Anthony Fluffy Hernandez does. I'm going to side with Fluffy. I think he wins this fight. I think Sean is going to face cardio death for the first time in his career. And I honestly hope Fluffy gets a finish. I think it would be awesome to watch him actually do that to Sean Strickland, because as much as I'm tired of these split decisions, man. I'm tired of going to the cards and Sean running his mouth after every single fight gets done. I want to see Fluffy put him in a box on Saturday. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm picking Fluffy. I do think he will win the fight. But I hope he can get the finish. I'm not sure he will though.
Yeah, looking at this fight, both guys, on different career trajectories, I'd say. Sean Strickland recently talking about how he only sees himself competing in MMA for another 3 years and contemplating retirement after that. He doesn't want to push his body too much more after it, even though he's 34, so that'll put him at 37, usually the time that a middleweight would be on the outs. And look, I rated him super highly in the past when it comes to the wrestling and the grappling. The striking is still something that he's putting together, and his body is his weak point. So teep kicks that Sean does throw a lot of could be effective here, and Sean is be able to land that jab at will. I just think that the style that Sean's with that Sean fights that Sean fights with is going to serve well for Anthony Hernandez because Sean is just going to be walking forward at him. So you can almost pull him or string him into a takedown attempt whenever you want. Sean doesn't know anything but walking forward. So if you start to start the cage, you angle out and you shoot a single leg, trip him from the rear leg that's holding him, that's an easy takedown. You can string him into a double leg and then twist into the cage. There's a lot of different ways against guys like Sean Strickland only have forward momentum with their footwork. I think Hernandez is going to be able to land takedowns at will. Maybe not the first couple while Sean's fresh. As this fight goes on, let's see how Sean is able to weather multiple more takedown attempts. It's like going to be 3 to 5 per round. And we know that Anthony Hernandez doesn't get tired from wrestling or grappling at all. Let's see if Sean does. We've only seen Sean's cardio when it comes to the striking. How about the grappling? Understand there have been reports of him being a good wrestler and high-level black belt from Eric Nixick, who is his coach. What does it say? That the guy is terrible? I think that Hernandez is, going to get the matchup he wants here. So Hernandez by round 4, round 5, submission is the prediction.
Another sub. Wiz, we are thinking violence and subs all night long. I love it. Thank you for joining me for the show, my guy. This has been awesome. It was great to share the camera with you. Thank you for fighting through the elements, because I know California tried to take you out more than once this evening. Man, if there's anything you want to shout out, if you've got any promos or if you've got any sponsors or shows coming up, platform, whatever, the floor is yours, my friend. Have at it.
First and foremost, thanks for having me on. I'm hoping we can do this a lot more often. This is really fun. Thanks to the chat for being so active on a Monday. I know East Coast, it's already 8:42 right now, but West Coast, we started at 3:30 p.m. So shout out to you guys for staying engaged and
the
being
diehards show up
with us today. The diehards do show up, man. And thanks for all the good energy, the good conversation. It only helps us deliver more effective breakdowns and make the show a little bit more entertaining with the interaction. You guys can find me at Was MMA Ever on YouTube, on X, Twitter, whatever you call it. Looking to start up YouTube again. I keep saying that, I know, and it's just I'm doing guest spots at different shows and I'm involved with my own training and coaching. So it's taking a lot of time away from me. But I really want to get back to making my own videos and my own show. So hopefully I'll have you on there at some point if I do end up following through with these words. I really hope I do. But yeah, you guys can find me at Wiz MMA. Please, DMs are always open if you want opinions on fights, on tennis. Speaking of tennis, I did promise something for tomorrow. I'm just gonna put it on the table here. We're fighting Martin Cilic and Delray Beach. We're going with Brandon Nakashima moneyline at -135 for 3 units. So you heard it here first.
Wiz dropping tennis bombs on his way out. Thank you very much, my friend. I will have to look into that. Might end up blindly tailing my... How do I not? We're shouting it out on the show. Gotta go with it. Thank you guys all very much for tuning in. We got another 2-hour plus show for everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with me this entire time, Wiz. It's been absolutely awesome having you on screen again. You guys were back full swing. 6 straight weeks of MMA. So we will be back with the Total Takedown, Clint's Hot Props, and of course on Friday, the undefeated post weigh-in show. Hit that like button for me and subscribe if you guys haven't on your way out the door. Let's freaking go. Let's stack chips. 2026 is going to be the year of the Die Hard Horde. We are taking it over. We're going to get back in the black. The reads are sharp. We're going to pick our spots, and we're going to win this year. Let's freaking go, you guys. Love you very much. Appreciate the support. Let's roll.